Good people, how are y'all doing tonight? We've got special guests. Well, we first of all, I want to introduce Sophia, my co-host, and then we have our special guest, Mike Florbo, here tonight with us. So, how you guys doing, man? How's it going, Sophia?
We doing all right.
You doing all
I'm
right?
doing all
You
right.
sure? You good? Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool. How you doing, Mike?
I had to laugh.
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, man. Life is good, and considering all this turmoil, it's
Hmm.
I seem to be coming out like a rose. So I think
There you
life
go.
is doing okay.
Yeah, we're
What
we're
you got going on,
winners.
Sophia?
Um, Nothing really. Just my oh yeah. Well, um, a lot of shit. um, I've been stuck at home for 2 days because I was doing my dash and my alternator went out on me, so I got to get that fixed.
That's no good. You
Mm,
kind of need that.
Yeah,
yeah, that
but
helps.
but I got my shop up and running, and I've been working on my jewelry and stuff like that.
Oh
Good.
man, the
I've
jewelry.
seen some of your new creations. They look really good.
Well, say that on my damn creations and don't say it now.
No, say it now too. This is where we're gonna reach all
He
these
don't
billions
you
of
don't
people.
you don't never even like react my shit.
That's not true.
When
Anyway,
Ooh. Nobody
anyway,
like reacts my shit either, except for Sophia. Sophia likes all my shit. What
that's
about
right.
you, Mike? You're not. No, I'm just kidding. So, anyways, tonight's topic is gun control and versus gun rights. So, Mike, you were just telling me about some new legislation that was coming through. We're going to watch a video, by the way, of Kamala Harris's latest wonderful speech. She's a wonderful president, vice president, and she's very outspoken, very confident, and she's full of wisdom and teachings. And she's going to teach us all about the AR-15 and what kind of bad weapon it was designed to kill people,
Oh God.
So we really need to pay
Yeah.
attention to
From
our leaders.
right.
That's what we
Sure.
do. Yeah. But you on the other hand, Mr. Mike, you have another story. What's going on?
Yes.
You were just telling me about this. What's
So
happening?
this is from the New Jersey Monitor, and basically I'll kind of do a synopsis of it here. Bill aimed at restricting concealed carry gun permits advances after debate. This was October 17th, so just a couple days ago. So what they're trying to basically do is they're trying to pass new legislation on concealed gun carry, and they're trying to fast track it. What that basically means is that, oh, this is so important that we have to do something about it right now, and they're they want to create a 60-day vetting process for concealed carry applicants. They want to expand the disqualifying criteria prohibiting gun ownership, increase permit fees, so that way only richer people can have weapons, because you see, the rich people deserve to be armed, and the poor folk that are typically minority, they don't deserve to protect themselves, even though they are law-abiding citizens, because that's exactly what the Second Amendment says, is that, Congress shall make no law restricting, the prohibiting the ownership of firearms, unless you're poor.
Of course.
And so this would actually affect about 300,000 New Jerseyans that have applied to carry permits since the Bruin ruling. Okay, so since September, 300,000 New Jerseyans are applying for permits to carry concealed. Right, that's a pretty sizable number of people. So in order to circumvent democracy, right? Because these people, they want to have the ability to defend themselves because they see what's going on right next door in New York. Okay. And
Yeah.
to support and protect democracy, they're taking the undemocratic route of fast tracking legislation to make sure those 300,000 people are going to have a really hard time to get a permit. And only the right law abiding citizens are going to get the privilege of exercising your Second Amendment right.
Okay. So yeah, they're just ratcheting up the momentum that they think they've got from you know that's pretty sad. It's politics as usual on one hand. Now a lot of
Mhm.
people will say that, look, man, Republicans have been talking about Democrats taking away our guns since time immemorial. This has
Nobody
never
wants to
happened.
take away your guns.
No one wants to
Nobody
take away
wants
your
to take away
guns.
your guns. They just want to take away the guns that are scary.
That's right. The
And
bad
the guns
ones.
that we want to take away the guns that kill people.
Yeah.
And we want to take away the guns that are designed as weapons of war.
Well, the AR-15 is black and it has movable parts and it's just really scary.
That's
We need to get rid of
racist.
that.
Black guns matter.
That is racist, Scott.
That's racist. And we don't want those black metal-looking guns. We want wooden
right.
ones. The one with the
Well,
wood
with the
stuff.
bolt action. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let me read a little more of this article from the New Jersey Monitor. Assemblyman Joe
I can
Danielson,
share
Democrat.
it. You want me to
Yeah,
share
there
it
you go.
on the screen?
By all means.
Yeah.
Assemblyman Joe Danielson, Democrat out of Somerset, an Army veteran and gun owner. So they're framing this as he's a gun owner, but he wants to pass advanced common sense measures. See, there's your keyword, common sense, right? Common sense means no sense at all. Because if you're a law-abiding citizen, you've not been convicted of a felony, you're not under investigation for, or you're under indictment for domestic violence or things of that nature, okay, then you should be able to legally carry a firearm. You should be able to carry one in your home, carry one in your car, because like in Florida, your car is an extension of your home. So you have a right to defend yourself if somebody is trying to actually harm you and up to and including killing you. Okay. So he's the bill's prime sponsor. He urged his colleagues to advance these common sense measures, and he said he would ensure the incidence of gun violence in New Jersey, already among the lowest in the nation, would remain low. With such an immense responsibility as just simply being a firearm owner, this is increased 100-fold when you're carrying out in the public. Can you imagine right now if this room was filled with concealed carry people? I would not want that. We need rules. Well, hang on. If everybody in the room was carrying concealed and they're all law-abiding citizens, why would you think they just go and go pew 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 pew?
Right.
Nobody
no common sense, please.
Nobody does
because
that.
that's common sense, right?
Okay, nobody does that, and they know that, and there's a reason why they want to disarm citizens. So let's go into if you don't mind, let's go into the Kamala Harris
By all
speech.
means.
Yeah, that's really interesting. She had a really wonderful speech that we need to really go through because she dropped some knowledge here. So let me see if I can present it.
It's a very loose way to describe knowledge, but go on.
Right? Yeah, this chick gets on my nerves, man.
It's a very loose way to describe knowledge, but go on.
Uh-oh, someone's got their tab open.
I'm trying to share it to the group. I don't think you shared it to. Did you share it to the fence and the?
Yep, I did. All of our wonderful friends out at Fight on the Fence. Oops. Go to Kamala Harris. So let's go ahead and play this.
Why are we looking at, in particular, assault weapons ban and carving that out? Because let's just always think about the fact that almost everything that can be used has a design purpose. What is the design purpose of an assault weapon? Okay, here you go.
Can you define an assault weapon?
A lot of human beings quickly.
She's a dumbass.
Design. That has no.
That's an insult to dumbasses.
It's a weapon of war. It's a
weapon of war.
Yes, I was there. I was at the
Stupid
scene
man.
Where the yellow tape was still up. There were strollers that were knocked over and lawn chairs because
she's just so fake, man.
They were gearing for a parade, for a community gathering. Parkland, you look at tomorrow is going to be the anniversary of 1 October in Nevada.
Kamala, could you tell me what the assault weapon that Daryl Brooks used in the Christmas Day parade?
Maybe that
exactly.
would be it. To really.
Oh, it was a Ford Escape. Let's ban those.
Anyone who is a parent or has ever parented a child or cares about children.
She's just being so manipulative,
Think
man.
about
Mm-hmm.
the effect.
Emotion.
Appealing to emotion. Yep.
And
Yep.
back during the time of Sandy Hook, I even said, and it was a bit controversial, I said, you know what I think should happen? As a former prosecutor who prosecuted homicide cases and therefore
Oh, you mean a former prosecutor that kept black people in jail longer than their sentences?
Okay.
For weed?
For weed, right? Possession.
Well, among other minor offenses.
It's not about making it sensationalizing it. Lock them up in a room.
Where her ancestors were slave owners, verified by her own father.
And require them to look at them and see what these weapons do to the human body.
The weapons by themselves don't do any damn thing. First of all,
they don't do a damn thing.
Okay, I'm getting sick of hearing this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. I can't do it anymore. This is bullshit. I didn't even watch.
Before we go on a tangent, let me read something that I found earlier that I want to read. Go over.
Yeah, sure. Please.
All right, go for it.
Okay, my reading skills ain't all that, but y'all don't have to just bear
I
with
may
me.
have it pulled up. So where is it from? Is it that article that we were looking at earlier?
Yeah, about the AR-15.
Let me pull it up for you.
I can't read that. It's too small on the screen.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead then.
I got it on my phone. My handy dandy phone.
Mm-hmm. Another weapon of mass destruction.
Okay, so the rhetoric claiming that an AR-15 is an assault rifle is an ignorant mischaracterization of the weapon. The fact is, it isn't a military weapon at all and cannot be used during U.S. military operations. Is that correct?
That is correct. So why don't we? Well, okay, go ahead.
Mostly this mischaracterization is due to fear and no understanding of weapons or ballistics, or it comes from a misguided definition of an assault rifle put out by the U.S. Army in the 1990s. I guess it looks similar, right? It says the M16, which the AR-15 resembles, it's not the same, but it kind of looks like it, are not used exclusively to conduct assaults. A soldier standing post with one of these weapons. Okay, I'm gonna skip that part. There was another important
All right.
part.
Well, let me kind of explain while you're scrolling through that. Let me kind of explain. So the M16 came out, I want to say, in like the early 60s. Okay, it was a select fire, semi and fully automatic, automatic fire weapon. Okay, so you had safety, you had semi-auto, and then you had select fire, or fully auto, which basically would fire off 3, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but it would fire 3 rounds in succession. So one trigger pull would go pop, 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 and then pop, 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 and then semi-automatic would be one trigger pull for each, and that was kind of what differentiated. Later on, the Armalite Rifle Company, okay, they made a civilian variant called the AR-15. And that would only have the switch would only allow to go either safety or semi-auto. Okay, one trigger pull, 1 round would come out of the chamber. Okay, so that weapon, that firing system, mechanically is much like pretty much every other semi-automatic rifle on the market, because you're going to have semi-automatic rifles, you're going to have bolt action rifles, you're going to have lever action rifles, as your most commonly, most common types of rifles, long guns in the market. Okay. And the reason why the AR-15 has been so popular is because of its lighter weight, easier to control for pretty much any body type. You can be a 5'1" lady that weighs 95 pounds and be able to use that weapon just as effectively as any guy, and that's for all sorts of reasons, whether it be
right. So it was kind of designed for your normal citizen,
Exactly. It was designed for a number of uses. Kamala Harris uses the tired trope of like,
it's designed to kill lots of people.
Right.
Well, I mean, you can kill lots of people with a knife. We've seen knife attacks in various parts of the world where dozens of people have been slashed, in close quarters with
Well,
knives.
my main point I wanted to make though was that it's really
Mhm.
not an assault rifle, and it's not
not.
even used by the military. And as
Right.
far as the military goes, the government, the CIA, the people who protect her ass, they actually have assault rifles.
Correct.
Assault weapons. We don't.
Well, but even the term assault rifle is not even. It's kind of a misnomer. It's a scary word because it's assault and rifle, right? And so they use this terminology to manipulate you through emotion, right? It sounds scary, and the majority of these people that have that are so dead set against the assault rifle. Okay, they've never fired one. They've never held one. I mean, you look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case where the prosecuting attorney lifts up the rifle, puts his finger on the trigger, and aims it at the jury. He committed a felony in open court.
Damn, that's
He
pretty
really
fucking
did.
crazy.
Well, here's another little interesting factoid. Is you've got this on the screen. You see this little mini 14-inch ranch
Mhm.
rifle.
Yes.
This was kind of brought up to me today by a coworker. And the thing about it is, this thing is just as powerful, if not more dangerous, than an AR-15 in some respects. Right? If you go through this,
Well, it depends on how it's chambered.
right, depends on how it's chambered, exactly. But the reason why people don't really freak out about it is because look, it's got the little wooden
It's
thing.
friendly.
It doesn't have the little
We
parts.
love trees, and trees are friendly, and those guns are made from trees.
It's green. So the thing is, it's
See,
harmless. It's not scary.
The stock of the
Also-
AR-15 is made from oil, and we hate oil.
Let me ask you this. How many serial killers used an AR-15 to kill their 300 and something victims? Oh my God.
Exactly.
Well, but hang on. But let's look at the goal here. The goal is to make and pass legislation that prohibits the mechanical action of the AR-15 while using the AR-15 as the bad guy to sneak in the details. See, the devil's always in the details, right? So if they can ban the mechanical elements of the AR-15, then those mechanical elements can be encompassed in every single pistol that's like a Glock or any semi-automatic pistol mechanically functions in a very similar way, right? They make it they make the language broad and vague enough to where, well, wait a minute. Well, if the mechanical action of this rifle is the same as similar to this the semi-automatic pistol, it's the same. One trigger. No, it's not a barrel, a revolver, or a cap gun. They can encompass that and then make pretty much 97% of the weapons owned in this country illegal. Right. And then Biden's talking about trying to to reintroduce the assault weapons ban that they had in the 80s or 90s, which had no measurable decrease in gun violence. So that's why it had a grandfather clause that after 10 years it was going to go away. Not only that, but most crimes and mass shootings are committed with pistols, handguns.
Of
Right.
course. Yeah,
Right.
Facts.
And then, but thing is, if the whole point is safety, right? Because there's another trigger word of, another buzzword of,
Well, we have to think of the children and the safety.
Mhm.
well, I'll get to a historical element of that here in just a little bit. But
It's all about the children.
It's all about. Why won't anyone think of the children?
No one's even talking about children right now. That's what your
Yes,
problem is.
because we have to preserve the children so Joe Biden can sniff them.
You mean little conservatives. You're so mean.
and so
Y'all stop. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
It becomes addictive.
But you look at this the how this legislation is being formed and what it encompasses and what the consequences, right? Because you've heard the old cliche, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
Mhm.
Well, this is definitely a paving of the road to hell, okay?
Yeah.
Because people talk about, oh well,
The Second Amendment only applied to muskets because muskets was the only technology around 1700s. Well,
Well,
if that's true,
well,
if
here's
that's
the thing.
true, then a pen only applies with the First Amendment.
Well, the thing about with me, rather than like fall into some slippery slope sort of fallacy, right? I would just stick to,
Unavoidable.
yeah, well, I would just stick to the, instead of going down the logical fucking fallacies and shit like that, I would just say, look, you're taking away people's rights.
Yeah,
Bottom line. And you can just
bottom
stick with
line.
that. The bottom
Well,
line is you're taking away my rights when you try to restrict what it is I can and can't own, you know.
let's go
Wait a
deeper
minute.
than that, though.
Hold up, man. Shit, I'm gonna get a word in here. Anyway, like I was saying. So I just love how they always want to bring up mass shootings, and then because of the mass shootings, we need to get rid of the guns. So if we want to get rid of mass shootings, we need to look at the people, not the guns, because usually they're crazy ass people who have mental illness and are slipping through the cracks way before they even do some shit like that. You know what I mean?
I want to put a pin there because I want to come back to that in just a little bit.
Well, that's all I wanted to say, really.
Oh, okay. So when you look at, and this is what I was going to say earlier, is that the core, in my opinion, the core foundation of why the Constitution was written, how it was written, what guidance was used to write the Constitution, began around a very simple concept. Okay, is that the individual, you, me, you, okay, the individual has the simple God-given, creator-given right to exist. That's not granted by government. Okay, a government doesn't grant you rights. This isn't Canada. Canada grants you rights, and then when they feel like it, they can take it away. What does that make it? That means they're not rights. They're privileges until the government says, "Nah, we're not going to do it anymore." Okay, and even in the Canadian Charter, they say, "Well, if we've taken away your rights, and enough people get mad, we might let you, address those grievances, but we're going to take them away from you first, and you have to fight for them back," which doesn't ever work. But that's a whole different tangent. Okay, so at the core, if you have a God creator-given right to exist, then clearly, presumably, you'd want to protect your own ability to exist, which means a right to self-defense from intruders, burglars, criminals, murderers, government, things of that nature.
That's nature's prime directive, survival.
That's why I love her. That's why I love how Kamala Harris, with her little speech, left that out. That the guns are
Of course, they leave it out.
only designed to hurt people and kill people, but they're also designed to protect yourself and your family. And my thing is, hold up, sorry, but I got to get my word in here because I don't talk that as well as you, anyway. Okay. So our inner cities are full of crime. Places like Chicago, for example, right? So you're telling me
Chicago, New York, Detroit,
right,
Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Dallas, Houston,
don't
Atlanta.
Okay.
I'm about to slap him. Anyway, see, I can't even fucking remember what I was gonna say. Okay, anyway, so they're telling us we should be sitting here without guns and not protect our family from the same criminals that they trying to protect themselves from. But we shouldn't, as citizens, we shouldn't be able to protect ourselves. We should just be sitting here with all these criminals running rampant, food prices going up, economies crashing, people gonna try to, steal, and anything can happen, and we're supposed to not be armed.
And defund the police.
That's crazy as hell. So anybody who believes in that is stupid, like literally stupid.
Well, I think stupid might be a little bit on the stronger side, which there's some agreement there. But
that's stupid to allow the government.
There's ignorance. There's ignorance and not understing why those laws.
What's the difference between stupid and ignorance, Mike? Please enlighten us.
Stupid, in my opinion, stupid means that they're unable to learn. Ignorance means they're unwilling to. Sometimes you
Ignor-
can just be stupid. Sometimes you can just be stupid and not even realize it, and you're
Just
not,
stuck on stupid. You
Scott,
know,
look that
yeah,
word up for me, please.
yeah, ignorance.
No,
Okay.
stupid.
Oh, stupid.
Who is that?
Well,
Skywork Pictures.
yeah, he says you're
Oh.
cute.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You look so cute when you're angry.
I'm not angry. Look up that
I
word.
know. Yeah, I am. We're gonna get that pulled up here in a minute. Hold on.
So, but as far as that goes, stupid means that they have, like, at least in my understanding of it, and kind of the etymology of the word is that they're unable to learn and comprehend different thought processes and stuff, right? And a lot of these
Well, it means they don't
opponents
have
of
common
this,
sense, I think.
well, but okay, but common sense is kind of a weaponized term, right? To where, well, you want to keep people safe, right? Well, it's common sense to take away the tool that is being used to hurt people.
Yeah, let's see
It
what
says
this says.
it says unintelligent decisions. Unintelligent decisions.
Lacking intelligence or reason.
It says slow of mind. It says slow of mind. So they slow as hell.
They slow.
So they may not be able to help that, right? But these opponents of Second Amendment, I don't think they're stupid. I just think they're ignorant. Like, they see the facts. They're only willing to cherry pick this fact and this fact and this fact, but ignore the rest of it. So with the point of, like, okay, well, assault rifles or handguns, firearms, whatever, cause this many deaths and injuries, right? Whatever the number is. Well, there's not a database that will accurately list off the millions of things and millions of events throughout the year that have prevented violence just by the perception of someone having one, right?
Right. And see, this goes back to the point where a lot of people's motivation for trying to get rid of guns and everything like that is just they feel sorry for people. They want to be doing the right thing for people. They just have a very short-sighted outlook,
Well,
And it's and
they're
they're and
blaming
I'll
the
be honest,
item.
they're I've changed my position on, like, guns and things like that years and years ago. And it was only because I was just led by, my common sense at the time was like, well, these guns kill people. Killing
Right,
people is
but
bad.
you
So
were
why
willing
don't
to
we get rid of the
learn.
right?
Yeah, you were
But
willing to
I'm just
learn
saying
and
people get stuck.
investigate more.
Yeah, and people get stuck into that narrative, and it's being, constantly, reinforced by media, by
Well,
echo
bec-
chambers and Kamala
right,
Harris and whatever.
because they're using that emotional response to get you to react in an emotional manner and not balance it, because emotions are important, don't get me wrong, but you also have to measure and balance those out with logic and understanding,
Right.
right?
But let's get
Hmm.
back to the point. The point is she's making the claim that weapons are only designed to kill and destroy many people, right?
And that's
So
completely false.
what I'm trying to do is let's go over why the positive aspects of the weapons that we
Hmm.
should be able to own. What's the positive aspects of that? Because she only manipulated it the way she wanted to, and she want to make it seem like people are out here just shooting the shit out of each other, which there are places where this
It's
happens.
the Wild West.
But normally that's not the case. So what are the good points of owning a gun?
Well, first and foremost, when how I view it is that if someone is going to exercise their rights, whether it be First Amendment, Second Amendment, whatever the case may be, they need to understand what responsibilities come with those rights, right? I have a right to free speech. We all have a right to free speech, right? But I can't say go and kill so and so because that's calling for action, that's calling for harm. That's not protected First Amendment free speech, correct? So same thing with Second Amendment. I have a right to bear arms. Keep and bear. Specifically the word bear. Bear means carry. Okay.
Right.
I have a right to carry, keep, and bear arms, not just firearms, but arms. Okay.
So what's the
And
positive in that? Why is that so positive? Because
why? Well,
someone will make the argument that if you look at Chicago and different cities, it's because they have access to these guns is why they have such crime rates. How do you respond to that? What's the positive in that?
The people that are outside the boundaries of the law, okay, the ones
Right.
that are actually actively committing those crimes, okay, there's no number of laws. You can
Which
have,
is
you can pass
mostly
10,
gang.
you can pass 10 million more laws, right? Criminals aren't going to wake up one day and go, oh gosh, you know that one they just passed? I guess I'll turn in my gun.
Right. There's a difference. Right.
Yeah.
The
There's a
law-abiding people
there's
are
a
going to turn in their guns because they want to abide by the law.
Go ahead,
Right?
Sophia.
there's
So they
a
take
dis-
away. But to answer your question, hold on. To answer the question, the primary reason is self-defense. It goes back to that prime directive. I have a right
Gotcha.
to exist.
So self-defense is the positive. I agree with that. Go ahead, Sophia.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's a difference between a criminal and a law-abiding citizen, and the crime that takes place in those type of places is usually criminals who are in gangs, and it's gang related or
Right.
something like that. So there's
Well,
a difference between the two.
but let's-
Well, Sophia, a criminal may say, well, murdering and, harming my enemies, with gang retaliation, violence, robbing people to get this money here. That's immoral. Okay, fine. Now, if they make a law against guns, well, I'm just going to turn my gun in because that's just taking it too far. I'm not willing to go that far in being immoral. Is
Where
that
you at?
really the way they think? I
No.
doubt it. I get exactly
No.
what you're saying. It's like criminal-minded people. That's why they call them criminals, because they don't really care about the law anyways. So
Right.
whatever
There's
Kamala
no
Harris'
number of
point
laws.
is, it's just not
And
making any
I
sense.
can promise you that most of those weapons that they use are illegal weapons anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
of
illegally
course.
acquired. They're illegally carried. They're illegally used in the commission of felonies. They're illegally
Get 'em
used
from
to do
out
all
of
sorts of
state.
things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's just one single element of the litany of crimes that are committed by people that typically have records that are prohibited from even carrying a firearm, right? And because they've committed previous crimes that would preclude them from actually having a weapon.
Well, here's
Yeah,
another
but,
argument.
but
Here's
my
an
point,
argument.
my point was though, is stripping ordinary citizens, law-abiding citizens of their guns. Is that I mean, what is that going to do? It's not going to strip the criminals of their guns.
Of course not. No, it's going to embolden them to where now we have fewer opportunities to ourselves to get harmed, so we can go and bust through a door, take whatever we want, and the odds of us getting shot are pretty slim unless we break into another criminal's house.
Well,
That
here's
has
an
legal guns.
argument.
Right. So in
Here's-
short, what you're saying is that law-abiding citizens cannot no longer protect themselves, so it makes it even easier for criminals.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hey,
Now, here's an
Scott.
argument. Here's an argument someone who may make, and Sophia may be familiar with this because she came from Germany. And somebody may say, well, in Europe, where they ban people from having anything but maybe gas guns or something like that, there is no handgun problem like here in America. It's only because Americans are so gun lovers and they allow people to own all these guns. That's why you have so much crime there in that country and all of that. But if they could only be like Germany or these other countries, then you wouldn't have that kind of crime.
there's
So
a
what do you
lot of-
respond to that?
As a person that grew up there and with the German culture, first of all, I don't know how it is now, but I mean, I haven't been there in 20 years, but first of all, it's a totally different culture. It's not as diverse as it is here. It's a much smaller place, way smaller. And so you don't have the type of crime rates you have here. And, the stuff that happens here on a large scale, you don't have happening there. So that's
plus the German legal structure is vastly different. There
that
are
too, but
different rights granted by, I guess the German equivalent of the Constitution when it comes to the accused and things like that. Plus, culturally, ever since World War I, World War II, okay, you have this kind of culture to where Germany they have an internal desire to be seen as like, the good guys. For so many years, they were the bad guys, right? And so I think that plays into the cultural norms in law as well. Now, I brought up that rooftop Koreans thing because if you look at the history, that's a very interesting story. I don't know, either one of you familiar with this story?
Yeah, I remember during the LA riots, there were Koreans who used to get on rooftops and start picking people off.
Well,
man.
Well, no. So in '92, they had the LA riots, and there were streams of gangs going into Koreatown, and they were looting the stores because they were mad, right? And they were mad at I'm trying to remember what the trigger was in the LA riots, but either way, they sat there and they defended their businesses, they defended their livelihoods, and they had the right to do it. Right.
Mhm.
And these guys, they were you didn't mess around with the rooftop Koreans, man. And they've kind of become local, not local, but like kind of national legends in that, they had that Second Amendment right to defend life and property, because that property is what provides them the means to exist.
Mhm.
Right. And so I never understood the logic of, I'm really mad at the government over here for doing this thing over there. So now I'm going to go to my fellow neighbor's business that may even look just like me and burn his business down.
Mhm.
How does that make any damn sense?
Doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. And when I heard one, I can't remember which politician. I think it was Ilhan Omar. Okay, and I could be wrong. Anybody could fact check me on this, but she said something to the effect of, protests are like the voice of the, what was the term she used? The voice of the oppressed.
The
whatever.
oppressed, yeah.
So all of the the rioting and the looting and stuff, those weren't riots. They weren't looting. They weren't arson. They were peaceful protests.
They were voicing their opinion.
Mostly peaceful protests, right? Okay, let's look at that right to redress grievances. Okay, you have a right to demonstrate. You have a right to assemble. You have a right to redress your grievances. You don't have a right to violence. So if you want to protest, you march down the street, you march down the sidewalk, you hold up your signs, you holler, you do whatever. I'm 100%
Well,
cool with that. I'm 100%
percent
cool with that.
Yeah.
The minute you knock over a trash can, you break something, you make a mess, you've now crossed that line.
Well, the art, what people do, oddly enough, they go back to the 60s of Malcolm X and a lot of the social upheavals that happened back then. They'll use that as a template to say, look, sometimes violence and riots is how things get changed in America. If people didn't stand up and look at uprising against England, our independence, we fought the British through violence, taxation without representation.
Let me throw a hypothetical at you, okay? Because we talk about all these protests and stuff, and you see, and you bring up the '60s, which that is a good template for what's been coming down for years and years. Because prior to the '60s, those types of protests that were violent were few and far between. I think there was some similar protests during the suffrage movement, where you had large groups of protesting women that would also have spouts of violence, right? But the suffrage movement is probably a good example of where minimal violence, but they were to accomplish, getting women the right to vote, which is great. Okay. And you don't hear a lot about the violent section of that. You don't even hear a lot about the violence. It's kind of on a sliding scale as time goes on, even through the '60s. But what is going to be more impactful to the entire nation? Several thousand people going and burning stuff down, smashing windows, burning down businesses and killing business owners or whatever, or 500,000 people sitting at the Capitol or whatever, holding up signs and not saying a word. Imagine that for a second. Let's imagine January 6th for a second. If all those protesters that were there, rather than raid the Capitol building and do all sorts of stupid shit, if they just sat on the lawn and said nothing and held up their signs. No violence, no yelling, no screaming. How much more impactful would that have been?
Right.
No insurrection, right? No, nobody getting hit with a fire extinguisher, nobody getting shot climbing through a window. Okay.
Right, but let's be real. Let's be realistic. People are emotional human beings.
I understand that,
and,
but channel the emotion. Channel the emotion into dead silence.
Yeah, but we're not nowhere near that shit. It's like people are all
why?
up and
Okay, so let's go there.
Because
Let's go there.
I tell you why. Because
Let's arrange
this,
protests where people just
Yeah.
sit the
Hold
fuck
on,
down and not say anything.
Sophia, go ahead. What'd you say?
because this country thrives on division. That's why there are all these isms.
Well,
That's
there's
why.
politicians. There's politicians on every aisle that want to sow that division because it's easier to control people through emotion than it is to
so that's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying. People are calibrated. Yeah, they're calibrating them. Yeah,
as a
they're programmed.
As a person that grew up in Europe and traveled, to different places in the world, I have never seen such a thing until I came to the United States, where this is what this country thrives on. Everybody feels secure in their little isms, and the division is constantly driven by the politicians.
The thing is those things occur in all over Europe. Okay, just look at France. France kind of invented the protest, right? Going back to the 1600s.
I'm not talking about the protest. I'm talking about all these different ideologies. That's not happening on that scale like it is here.
Have you seen the gas protests in France?
I've seen that. I'm not saying they don't have protests. We protest,
but they're violent. Yeah,
I know. But I'm saying overall, like forever, like this.
The U.S.
hold on. Let me figure out what Sophia's saying. So you're saying that in America, as opposed to like Germany or other places in Europe, you're saying that just the ideological divide is.
What I'm saying is what I'm saying, it's way greater. What I'm saying is, in Germany, we protest when there is a reason to protest, when there's really something wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't just pull shit out of our ass and make up shit and then everybody's rioting, like they do in America. Like American people.
Okay, but what fuels that?
Wait a minute.
American people are spoiled. That's what the fuck fuels it. They're spoiled. They're so spoiled that they make up shit that they can fight about.
Are they spoiled, or are they fueled up by what the media is twisting it and contorting?
They're spoiled and they're twisted up by the media. There's like a lethal combination going on right here.
Fair enough.
I can see that. I can really see that because when you look at, if you just sit there and look at the news for a while and you just count how many stories are divisive. I mean, if you really just observe the shit and just kind of step out,
when somebody gets killed, like just watched something last night that just popped up on. I was on MeWe, so there was this little kid that ended up in a police car, and it was not taken in custody, obviously, because we're talking about a baby almost, right? But during the time that this baby was in the care of the police officer tried to get out of the car with the baby, and somehow the kid fell out of his arms and fell forward, face down, and hit the concrete. And so he had a busted lip, like right here, And so I don't know how it happened. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the baby was kicking and screaming and he lost grip of the baby. I mean, I don't know. It could have been an accident. Okay. But the only thing the media focuses on is that it was black. It was a black baby. So it must have been racism. See, that right there is what I'm talking about. Like,
that's getting people ginned up.
Yeah, why can't you just report on this
winding them up?
Yeah, why can't you just report on this shit like it just happened to a person, like regardless
because it doesn't get the emotional response, which means it doesn't get the views, which means they can't sell the airtime to the advertisers to make more money.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. The racism issue in America, you really don't see that much in Europe.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why that is. One, it has to do with diversity, like you mentioned earlier, in Germany, because Germany, Norway, Sweden, I mean, even in the UK, the UK is more diverse than say Norway is, or even Germany, but there's a larger percentage of a kind of like a homogeneity. There's more homogeneity in European nations.
Well, what do you think
in the United States?
What do you think, Sophia, from your experience? What do you think accounts for that?
Because we don't focus on that. Like growing up, I was treated the same way as everybody else. I mean, I wasn't really aware of me being black, to be honest. I mean, I was aware of it. I was aware of it, but I wasn't aware of it. You know what I mean? It's not something that I was always thinking about. But in America, it's like you're constantly reminded, bitch, you black, you black, you black, you black,
Yeah.
you black, and you gotta
isn't
do
that
this,
by
and you-
itself? Isn't that by itself divisive? Why
Yeah,
can't you just be American?
It is. That's why the hell I be getting into it with other black folks who expect me to be a certain way to be black. And I'm like, look, there's no certain way to be black. Okay. Black people
There's
are all
not.
over. Black people are all over the place. Even in
Yeah.
Africa, you have different
Of
African
course.
languages, you have different tribes, you have
Different cultures, different
traditions,
norms.
cultures, everything. Like black people are not
A monolith. Yeah.
They're not a
Yeah.
monolith. Exactly what I was about to say.
And so that's one thing we have to get over in this country is identity politics. It has to go. And so
And that's what fuels
I
the
agree.
emotion. That's where the emotion comes in, I think, is
hold
what
up.
you're
So
saying.
my thing is we need to go a step further because I don't like beating around the bush and I would like to get to the point. The politicians are corrupt on both sides because it's constantly going on and on and on, and nobody's doing shit about it. It just keeps going on. I give you a good example. People say, "Oh well, the right is the good party, and it has to be, and they're better because they have better policies." Okay, yeah, they do to a certain extent, but at the same time, they also allow shit to happen constantly. And I'll give you a good example when it comes to immigrants. When immigrants come over here and we say, "Hey, we can't have this influx of immigration. They need to come over here legally, whatever, whatever." And then you have the left saying, "No, they need to come over here." Why? Because the left wants them all over here for votes, which we know that's the truth. That's why there's 30,000 something ballots going out to people that accidentally, right.
It was an accident made 30,000 times.
Exactly.
So, but let's be honest, the right likes immigrants too, because for the cheap labor. Come on now.
Of course.
Well,
So that's why nobody's doing anything about border control. Let's keep it real.
Well, hang on. I mean, Trump did a pretty good job
Trump,
of
but Trump
mitigating the
Trump
flow
ain't
across
the
the
right-
border.
Trump ain't right though. It took for Trump to get in there and actually do something about it.
But who was standing in his way? 2/3 of his own party for the first 2 years. Because the Republican controlled House and Senate,
but you heard
during his first 2 years of his tenure, they didn't want to work with him.
But you just said it yourself, his own damn party. See, that's the fucking problem in this country.
Right, because for decades, Republicans have had a nasty habit of having this one. They lack something. What's it called? A spine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So but that's bad. That's what it has to be addressed. That's horrible. You can't get out of shit just because you chose to be silent. Sometimes being silent.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, for example, if you are dumb enough to be voting for these Democrats, you deserve to lose
You
your
deserve
fucking
it.
Social
Yeah.
Security money. I would gladly vote for someone who would raise Social Security and cut spending, but until I have that option, I'll go along with cutting spending. And at this rate, I'm not going to live long enough to collect it anyways. Democrats are pushing for nuclear war. They're probably ready to release the Boston University COVID-19 super strain on us.
Man,
Democrats.
Why was that even
held
done?
the country
Why?
hostage since Obama
Let's make
was
it
elected.
80 times more deadly.
Okay, Scott.
Oops.
I don't like Republicans either. I'm just saying they're much better with money.
No, I'm
and
just
they'll
saying,
need to learn how to balance the damn budget instead of looking for more ways to take our money.
I'm independent. I don't really like anybody. Okay, like I don't know what that's called. I don't like nobody. So with that being said, what are we gonna do about it?
Well, here's the thing.
I don't want to hear we gonna vote because that don't work.
No. Hang on. Let me address that right now.
In the streets.
Let me hang on. Let me address that right now. Let me address that right now. Okay. In this country, we pretty much work on a two-party system. As flawed as it is, it's much better than what you have in Canada and specifically the UK. Because they have numerous parties. If you start looking at the elections throughout the last 20 to 30 years, hold on. The last 20 or 30 years, okay, the party that's in power in Canada came to power with less than 35% of the vote, if I have my numbers right, okay? So a little over a third of the country gets to control the other 2/3 because they have so many parties, okay, that nobody gets a majority over 50%. So now you're dealing with sub 50% type of 50% plus one. So while our system has flaws and there's definitely room for improvement, the Canadian system and specifically the English system kind of is similar to what Canada is. You have parties that don't have over 50% of support in control. And that's why these lunatic fringe, hard left leaders like Justin Trudeau, okay, are in control of nations like Canada. And look at the complete shit show that they've got going on over the last 5 years. You look at all the scandals that Justin Trudeau's been through, and all he says is, I'm real sorry. I'll try better next time, but make sure to vote for me. And look, my party has just won again. And I'm so surprised,
Okay,
And
let me
the
ask you
people
this.
have spoken.
Can I ask something?
Go
Can
ahead.
I ask you something? Okay. A moment of silence. My question. Stop making that face, Mike.
Mike, silly boy.
Anyway. He's stupid. Anyway, my question is though, so do you think that right now at this moment, true patriots are in charge?
No.
So what
No.
can we do? What can we do about that?
You have to find, okay, I think the common misnomer is that there's this magical politician, whatever party that they fly under the banner, that's going to be perfect in every way, right?
No, that ain't what, Mike, that is not what I'm saying. Stop it. Stop it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, we already know they've taken over the universities. They're taking over public schooling. I mean, come on, look around you. So
right, but those relate to local elections. Local elections are among the least participatory of the electorate in the whole class of voting. So people that run for office, the participation rate in your local, in your mayor, your school board, your governor, your Congress, your state level congressmen and senators, okay, voter turnout for those traditionally has been very low. Okay, so it's a build-up system. So if you want to change your surroundings, properly vet the people that are running for office and get involved. Because if you're not involved and actually realize the actual power of a fucking ballot, okay, and actually realize how important that ballot is, because in the way it's been done, my vote doesn't count, right? Well, sure, it doesn't when you don't count, and then you tell, or that mind perception goes through thousands of other people like, well, my vote doesn't count, and then you have thousands of votes that never get caught, that never get cast. Okay, I'll use a really good example. 2018, if I have the year, there was the midterm elections, and I was living in Utah at the time. Okay, and Mia Love was running against the former incumbent, because Mia Love won. She was running for her second term, and she was running against, I can't remember the guy's name, but the Democrat. He lost in 2016. Okay, Mia Love won that bid, and in 2018 she was running for her second term. Okay, and her opponent, because he had connections from his previous bid, he launched all these stupid investigations into her campaign finance reform. Okay, that election was swayed by 670, I think it was 678 or 687 votes. That was the margin of that election. Okay, so that dirty politics, you had 678 people more to vote for the other guy because the locals in that district were like, well, my vote doesn't matter, right? Imagine the average person knows 10 to 20 people, right? So you tell, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of voting for so-and-so. Why don't we have let's talk about it. Oh, I don't want to vote. Why? No, this is important. Let's, and you be that person to say, hey, bring those people in and let's talk about the people that are the candidates so we know, who the best person to vote for is, right? And you think that would actually make a difference in that, right, even in that local election?
It really
and there's
would.
Plenty of examples. There's plenty of examples where just a few hundred votes separates the winner from the loser.
But
and the winner was the asshole.
But what's
preventing it? It's a mindset.
And what's causing that mindset is the fact that I think people are pretty much confused. Like your normal average person, when it comes to politics and things like that, they're kind of confused because it's so easy. Like we were just talking about, appealing to emotion and buying into all these sort of fallacious reasoning that politicians put forth. People really need to like really,
Distractions.
yeah,
I
and
think
people
that I
really
think
need to
there's
get
a
the principles. Just be focused on
but I think
what are
there's a
your
little
what do you believe in,
I
and
think there's a little more to it than people just not being involved. I think people try to get involved and they get shut down.
Well, there's
Um,
involvement, there's awareness, there's a handful of issues because a lot of voters, and this is partially like a good thing, but also can be a bad thing, is like people will vote in their own best interest, right? So
mm,
politicians on both parties, or all three, really, the independent, the independent party, the Libertarian Party, the Republicans, Democrats, and so on, they're going to try to appeal to what people want, right? And so some of those things that they present as what people want are free things. Well, who doesn't like free things? I love free things, but I know better because I go, well, how are we going to pay for those free things, right?
that's why
And
libertarians don't have a chance because they don't play that game.
well, but the specifically the Libertarian Party has a lot of kooky. I don't even want to go into it.
Well, they're considered
okay, so
kooky. I mean, you could go through.
libertarians are not leftists, right? Because I'm confused on that
No,
too.
no, no, no. Libertarians
Hang
are,
on, they
I'm-
can be.
I think
They
well,
I'm
they're
can-
left when
they
it
can-
comes
I think-
to certain
I
things.
think
Right.
I'm a conservative, but I am a little bit libertarian leaning though.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
libertarian
think
leaning,
most
too.
conservatives are also, they have a pretty good handle on the provisions of libertarianism. However, they can differentiate between right leaning and more left leaning, to where people that are conservative are more ingrained in the self sufficient. Okay, government,
Right.
get out of my way. I can figure this out for myself. I don't need as much help as you're offering because I don't want to pay the cost of all that help. I'll have some. I'm okay to have some,
Mhm.
right? But I don't need a $200 bazillion program
It's
to
all
help
about
me find a
mitigating.
job.
It's all about mitigating authority out of
Right,
your
you don't want-
life.
And you don't want
Balance.
the government. You don't want the government in your living room. Come on now.
Right.
Right.
No,
'Cause
exactly.
if they start paying for everything, then that's kind of like the hand is feeding you.
You will own
And-
nothing and you will be happy. And you will
Yeah,
eat the
you'll be
bugs and live
happy.
in the pod.
And eat
That's right.
maggots.
That's right.
You will
pretty
eat the
much.
crickets.
99-cent maggot burger coming soon
Yeah.
to your neighborhood.
No. They'll start with crickets. They're already
Yeah.
doing it in Australia. You got videos
Well,
of kids
well,
being
see, where
handed bags of cricket chips. How do you like the cricket chips, kids?
I
Oh,
would
it's
say
delicious. Tastes
some
like
of the
barbecue.
more
Good thing
some
I
of the
know how
more
to go fishing.
controversial. I would say some
No,
of the
that'll
more,
soon be illegal,
some of
like
the
it
more
is in Cuba.
some of the
Man,
more
that's fucked up.
controversial points of libertarians are like when it comes to healthcare, like they want to privatize healthcare. And a lot of
Depends on who you ask.
well, the arguments that I've heard, like even Republicans are against libertarians because when you start privatizing healthcare, then they're in it for profit. And when people are in it for profit, it's only going to turn out bad for people. But then
Yeah.
the libertarian argument is no, the fact that America has the best healthcare system in the world is because it's competitive. They're competing with all these things. But the
Well-
problem on the other side is, yeah, but it's so damn expensive. That's why we have a healthcare problem because no one can afford it because it's
but-
handled
okay.
by all these private companies.
Let me address that from my perspective. Okay, I don't think the U.S. has the best healthcare system in the world.
Mhm.
We have the best healthcare as
Mhm.
far
Yeah,
as
that's what I mean.
quality of service, right?
We have it available.
But the systems have flaws. Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and why are those flaws there? It wasn't like that in the 50s and the 60s and stuff, in the 40s and
Mhm.
prior. Okay, we had decent sized population, obviously smaller than it is now, but you had the ability to afford to go to see a doctor for routine stuff. Doctor,
Mhm.
see a broken arm, an injury, a bullet wound. No, a cold. If you had the sniffles and stuff, you could go to a doctor and you could afford, because you had a lot of doctors in your municipalities and towns. You had traveling doctors and that kind of stuff. They'd go to the rural areas and whatnot, and they would provide affordable health care. Okay.
Mhm.
And you would pay the doctor directly. Well, the government steps in at some point in time, and I don't know the exact, when that kind of evolved into what we have now, but the government steps in and says, hey, we want to make this accessible and affordable for everybody. So they started off small, and then they started off getting, more and more involved, right? And the more the government gets involved, the more it becomes, the more expensive it becomes. I mean, let's look at ACA, for example. Okay, I'll use my own personal example. When I was working for a company, small company, we had about 80, 90 employees. For a family of 5, so me, my wife, and my three children, it would cost me for pretty decent healthcare about $360 a month, roughly. Okay. Then ACA came in, and to get about 2/3 less coverage, quality coverage, and deductibles and things like that, it cost me over nearly $1,400. How is that affordable?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, because the government, you can keep your doctor. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Well, I couldn't keep my doctor because he wasn't on the new plan. Right? So my employer goes, hey, we're going to find this other company, which I think they were kind of in bed with, I don't know how you prove, but that was just kind of my gut feeling. And they were taking a cut of that, 3 times more, 4 times more the cost. Okay. And my experience, sure, it's anecdotal, but you see all the reports. Hey, the average person went up more than double, right? With ACA. Again, the road to hell leads to good intentions. So how do I solve it? Rather than bitch about it, my thought was this: open up the entire nation to healthcare. So if I don't like my local providers, have a standardized level of care for, here's for basic routine, health maintenance, like an HMO. These are the standards that these guys must supply, and then you can charge whatever you want. Okay. And different companies in different states, provided they meet that threshold of the minimum that's set by government regulation, minimal as it should be, then you can buy that policy, and then you can have maybe a second policy that covers catastrophic care. That, since it's only covering catastrophic care, which is less likely to happen, it doesn't cost as much. So now, if I want to cross state lines and buy from another state to give the coverage they need, they have to accept pretty much any board certified physician. Okay, because this bullshit of your doctor that you currently have, they're out of network, so you can still use them, but it's going to cost you 10 times more. How stupid is that? This guy's board certified just like the other guy or gal, for that matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like Dr. Jennifer Jones. She's awesome. She takes care of all my stuff, right? But now I got to go to Dr. Zhivago and be like, hey, man, you're going to pay me twice as much, but I have more patients, so I can't give you the time that you really need. So by narrowing it down, you're not cutting the cost to the end user. The only way to cut the cost to the end user is to increase the supply. And if you go on a national supply of doctors, then that by itself will bring it down. Plus, the individual patient should have a right to go and get services done without any coverage and pay for that directly. And they can negotiate with the physician's office to negotiate that as an optional alternative.
Well, here's another part of that, and I would agree with you, but I would also add, and it's more of a libertarian sort of argument, and a lot of people don't like hearing this, but I think it's just kind of the facts, is that people forget that we have choices. Like, if you look at why people end up sick and in the hospital and stuff like that, it has to do with a lot of things, like your diet, like your exercise, your activity. A lot of these things are preventable. Number one, that's the first thing. The other thing too is, we don't have to go out and buy tons of clothes and cars and things that are
the latest iPhone.
What's more important than the latest iPhone? Wouldn't it be your health? It's like,
I just got my newest iPhone, so.
But I mean, that's
what category.
That's what I said. You got it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's people out here. The people who are complaining about the prices so high are the same people who go out and buy the latest iPhone, the latest electronics.
And that is an issue, but I don't think that's like the driving issue.
That ain't always true though. Like, a lot of people that can't afford healthcare also can't afford other things. So
yeah,
I will beg to differ there, and I'm one of them.
Yeah,
I was just saying, but
I'm guilty of the other thing. I'm on the other extreme. Like, me, I don't even have healthcare. Like, I have the money for healthcare, but I choose not to because I'd rather spend money on bullshit and other things.
Quit
So
lying.
I'm kind of stupid.
You got
I mean,
healthcare. You have insurance through your job. Now shut up. Anyway, I do agree. I do agree with you though that we should promote healthy lifestyles for
yeah.
sure. Which I don't think
Yeah.
we do it. We do enough. And Europeans, they look at us and they think we're all fat Alberts and shit and laugh at us and
Mhm.
shit because the way we
Yeah,
eat.
but I mean, hey, the UK is not that far behind on the overall BMI. Okay.
Yeah, but
right.
not
And,
Germany.
and
Not Germany. My sister,
no,
my sister is older than me, and she's built and still looks like she's in her freaking 20s, like
Yeah,
straight
in
up.
Japan, same thing. People in
Like
Japan
she
and
doesn't even use her car most of the time. Like my grandmother rode her bike till she was in her 70s to the grocery store,
yeah.
you know. And so in America, you go from AC to AC. From your house where the AC is on to your car where the AC is on, and then
But that's the choices.
from your car to your job and the AC is on.
But
And
people are
like
like, fuck that. I don't want to be
people,
riding my bike to work. I don't want to be fucking walking and
well, but hold on.
I
Let's
want
look at the why
like
that is. Why that health
my
factor.
sister,
Is she in
what,
Germany?
yeah, yeah, she
what?
is.
Is your
sister's
sister in Germany still?
Yeah,
Okay. So part of the reason why I think specifically in Germany and also Europe in general is kind of how those nations evolved on a civil level. Okay. How the neighborhoods and the cities and towns and villages evolved, where you had a village that started and it kind of grew outwards. Okay. There wasn't like, millions of acres of open land, right? So where you'd have, because keep in mind, cities and towns in the US are spread out a lot more than they are in your typical cities and towns in Europe. Okay. And when Europe's civilization was evolving, it kind of went to like hub and spoke in a way. You'd have the center of town and then it kind of would grow outwards. Whereas in the US, you'd have center of town, but you had all these kind of like outskirts where people would get granted properties and stuff, where they'd have the Homesteading Act and that kind of thing. And so they would have to build roads to get that were longer to go by horse or buggy, okay? And they'd have to go longer distances. And as the automobile became more prevalent, not that long into our existence, that really changed how the US evolved differently than nations in Europe, okay? Because when you look at the long established cities and villages and towns that are pick a European city, okay? Anywhere you could look at Germany, you could look at England, you could look at France. Everything was coalesced relatively close. Now there was a tragedy involved in that because having everything so close, you didn't have good plumbing, right? You didn't have good sewage systems, and so you go to turn of the century, France or England or any other nation in Europe, there was lots of like cholera and disease and in the big towns, but they kind of had to live there because, well, that's where all the stuff was, right? And the U.S. just didn't evolve that way.
right.
It didn't
But I
evolve that way
mean,
at all.
my sister doesn't travel only short distances. Like she goes from, let's say, where she lives to Schwäbisch Hall, which is like 20 miles.
Mhm.
She has a car. She has actually a really
Sure.
she has a very new, expensive car. She just chooses not to use it. It's just a mindset they have. They use it
Sure.
when they
But
need
for
to.
her everyday needs, how far does she have to travel to get like groceries, food, clothing, and that kind of stuff?
So she lives in the country, so she has to travel by car maybe like 15 minutes to the
Okay.
nearest store. So
What kind of work? What kind of work does she do?
right now she's a stay-at-home mom with her son.
There you go. Okay. So she's active, and and she probably has a better quality of food because she's out in the country. Germany,
Yeah, she grows a lot of her own food. Yeah.
right. Germany, like a lot of other European nations, they have much more stringent guidelines as to what ingredients are in the food. The U.S. guidelines are
Right.
fucking garbage. I'm sorry, they just are. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. And I was gonna go into that.
Yeah, there's certain elements within American food that that they can get away with that may not kill you right now, but over the years.
Yeah, I was gonna go into that and give you a little story. So I grew up obviously eating organic foods, right?
Yeah.
In Germany, and so when I got here, By the time I was 25 or 24, I had IBS and gallstones, and I had my gallbladder
Oh,
removed.
after you came here.
After I got here, the food
Yeah.
literally almost killed me, and still today I suffer from IBS and just
Yeah.
I'm
That's
practically
terrible. I'm
allergic.
sorry that you go through that.
I'm practically allergic to every and anything, but I just learned to eat whatever I can eat and then just deal with the pain. So yeah.
Well, I think in America, some people are probably stay in good shape because of their jobs. They have to walk, like Toots.
Oh,
Toots,
prostitutes, whatever.
streetwalkers.
How are they in good shape if they're on drugs and shit and having STDs and everything else? No, but the point is though that I'm not trying to say how one country's better than another or whatever. I'm not in competition here. I'm just saying we can look at some countries though and take the good stuff that they do and try to apply it here and teach our children to be healthier. With
American
this whole,
exceptionalism.
like these kids, it makes my hair stand up what my kids tell me when they come from school. The teacher tells them do an assignment. If they get done in 5 minutes, they get to play their game and lollygag on their phones throughout the whole fucking class until the class is over. And I'm like, the teachers are sitting there doing the same shit. They're sitting at their desks now and playing on their fucking cell phones. It's fucking horrible. And so
and it really is.
The kids are so accustomed to being visually stimulated at all times that they experience everything, in their brain, but they're not actually going out and doing nothing, and it's terrible.
We're not paying attention, and it's a shame how people do that.
That's not what I said, Scott. You just talking out the side of your ass. I can't deal with y'all today.
I gotta fuck with you sometimes.
Well, you showed off yours. I gotta show off mine now.
That's right.
My cover off here. Look at this shiny new iPhone with this little shiny.
Wow, that's where our healthcare is going.
What's the difference? Look how big my shit is.
Yeah.
And look, it has everything that I needed to do. Look, and I stick it to my car when I'm door dashing.
Wow.
There you go.
It talks to me. It plays music for me. It takes.
See, I got a big old magnet. This is not a sponsored spot, but this is the Rock Form mount. It's really good. ROKFORM Rock Form. I like their stuff. It's really good.
Yeah,
so
that's what they all say. But
I put it on my motorcycle, damn it.
I just dropped mine 20 times and doesn't even have a scratch.
Wow.
And mine was only $120.
Really?
Yeah, it's a
the phone or the kit. Oh, it's a Galaxy.
It's a Galaxy A20, and I've had it for 2 years.
You know how much I paid for my iPhone, my new iPhone 14 Pro Max?
How much?
$77.
Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
From AT&T. Again, not a sponsored thing.
No, I'm sorry.
Now, there is a caveat. I traded in my iPhone 12 Pro Max that they gave me a pretty good, sizable discount on to pay for my new one. And that's the second phone that I've got through AT&T. Where my trade-in.
How much was that phone?
That phone, I got that phone. I actually made $800. I made $800 on that one because I paid $900 for it. They gave me $850 for it in trade. They screwed up and then they gave me another $850 for it. I'm good at finding deals. So because of their promotions, okay, and I've had AT&T now for a number of years, they gave me, now that doesn't mean that you'll get the exact same thing, but if you change carriers and stuff, you work out, you negotiate, you work your thing out, you try to get the best program. I haven't had but the last new iPhone I actually paid for is my XR that I paid I think I paid $795 for it. Actually, that's what I actually paid for it.
Why would anybody pay $700 for a phone? As a German, I do not grasp such concepts.
Well, think about this.
What is this money you're talking of?
Hold on.
$700 for a phone.
Your phone, okay, you do gig work, right? That phone makes you money.
Yeah, right? and I don't have to have.
It's a tool. It's a tool, right? So it makes you money. So for me, I've used both Android and iPhone. I hate them both.
But can
For
you
the
do
most
the
part.
same thing with a $70 phone that you can with a $700 phone?
Yeah.
No,
My
no. For
phone's
the
a,
kind,
So you can't do
for,
dashing, or you
how you
can't.
gonna tell me that? How are you
I
gonna
think
see
I
me?
think as efficiently.
How? I do it every day.
What I'm saying is that
You have
you-
as
fallen for the advertising, Mike. You've fallen for the
Mike,
corporate
my
brainwashing.
phone is $120. And before I had this phone, I had a phone that was like $100. So I never spent more than maybe, I think the most I spent was $150 on a phone. So I've never had a phone that was more than that. And I've been DoorDash.
was that the promotional cost or was that the actual
No,
like
that's the
retail
cost.
cost?
That's the cost because I've never had an iPhone before. I've only had Galaxies, Galaxies
And
and
you buy them brand new or you buy them secondhand?
no, I buy them brand new. They're brand new.
Perfect.
But they are designed to be like iPhones, you know.
Yeah.
They design.
Well, I mean, they're competitors, you know, and to be honest, I'm not even a big fan of Apple. I don't like I hate their marketing. Is what it really
Well,
boils
I
down to.
love Apple computers because when I used to be into like music and
Apple people.
well, the reason why is because they're they have like built-in protection and they
Hold on, guys.
they hold very large media files.
Hold the fucking phone right now. Hold on.
What the
Apple,
hell?
you do know Apple computers are the devil, right? Seriously. Like, think about it. What is the symbol of the Mac?
If you turn the apple,
symbol?
hold on. If you turn the apple upside down, it's someone taking a poop.
Yeah, but that's not how
But it's
they
an
have it
apple
turned.
though. Like
It's an apple and it's bitten. Do you
so
understand?
every
Genesis,
every apple is Satan.
are you familiar with the story?
As soon as
of
you
Genesis?
bite into apple, you have committed a sin.
That's right. That's right. And guess how much the first Macintosh computer cost?
$666 damn dollars.
And 66 cents, baby. That's how
I
much
never
it
heard.
costs.
I never heard that one before.
You better pull it up on. You can
me
Google
neither.
that
I'm
shit.
just like, I'm guessing that's what it would have to be.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up on Google, man.
Scott,
Google don't.
man, you were derailing the show.
No, man, I'm telling you, you guys are
Oh,
bringing
God.
up Mac. I didn't bring up Mac.
We were supposed to talk about gun control and gun laws.
Yeah, we're so far off in the weeds now. It's kind of funny, but that's
went
kind
a
of
million
what makes
miles
the
away.
conversation.
I actually
Yeah,
I like your hat, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It matches my sweater.
There you go.
Yeah.
I decided to throw out the beanie, you know, because I don't know. It's just it works.
It's getting
I didn't want to mess
cool.
with my hair.
It's getting
It's
cool
getting
out.
cooler out. It's it's definitely a good reason.
Hey, if
And
you
it's not like I
notice,
don't need it.
everybody has
I
on a
got
sweater.
plenty, you know,
Even
I just
even
decided
Scott.
to fucking wear it.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Cold,
There
man.
you
It's
go.
getting
Okay.
cold outside.
It ain't
It's
cold,
like
Scott.
freezing cold.
Six-
You know, it was down to 72 today, man. You
Oh, you
understand
poor
how
baby.
cold
That's
that
so
is?
cold. Oh, I'm freezing.
hang on. Without revealing where this is, the place where I'm moving to
Yeah.
right
Oh, I
now.
know.
Right now is 41 degrees, and I'm
I
loving it.
know.
I'm
I know
loving it.
You love it, huh?
Yeah,
Man, I
I
used
love
to
that
live
too,
in
though.
Virginia.
I
I lived
love
in Virginia for
the cold
years.
weather,
It's
dude.
freezing cold,
Scott
man.
likes
Right.
it hot. Scott likes
I
it
can't
hot.
stand that cold, boy. I lived in
likes-
Germany.
Well,
He likes
see,
it hot.
here's the thing, and pulling this back into the gun conversation, okay, and I'll tie the weather in with the guns. This is kind of funny, but you know. So when it's really cold, you can always put more clothing on, right? If it's so hot, you can only get so naked before somebody puts you in jail.
You're still gonna
And
die
then where are you gonna hide your gun?
Yeah.
in your ass crack.
You be pulling bullets out your ass.
Yo, pistol pocket.
Yeah, no, I agree with Mike. You can always try to warm yourself up. Long as I always say, long as I can make a fire, I'm good. You know, I'm not gonna freeze to death. But damn it, when it's hot, man, there's just nothing you can do about it other than AC or get in some cold water or something.
That's why God made AC, man. You know?
And AC is actually very unhealthy for you because it dehydrates you and it keeps you dehydrated. So yeah, air conditioning is actually very unhealthy for humans.
It's cold in that hospital I work at too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the funny things is one of the kind of I think the unintended side effects of being in a constantly air conditioned environment is the perception is that things are getting super hotter all the time, and every year's hotter than the last. Well, because we're becoming more and more acclimated to being in air conditioning. You go back to the
Right.
80s, how many people had air conditioning? Not many. Nowhere. I
Yep.
mean, far more now, right? Dude, cars didn't have air conditioning standard until like the mid to late 90s. If you really think about it, air conditioning was an option from like the 1950s all the way through to like the end of the 80s. When the Japanese manufacturers, if I remember correctly, they would throw in, hey, let's throw in air conditioning standard.
Yeah. Well, it's only getting hotter because of the chemtrails that the government's blanketing the sky with. So
No, it's getting hotter because there's too many people and cows farting, and it's making the carbon dioxide.
we are
worse.
destroying the world.
Man,
If
I
only
can't
we
deal with
had.
y'all today. Y'all childish as hell, man.
I know, man. If only we did. If only we didn't have plastic. Plastic is destroying the earth.
Yeah,
Forget what
well,
the earth has been through.
imagine
Worldwide
how many
floods,
medical
comets.
devices are made with plastic,
Yeah,
and
right.
where does plastic come from?
Yeah, but poor dolphins, man. You throw this shit in the ocean, and the fucking dolphins
Who's throwing it
bear
in
the
the
fucking
ocean?
shit on their nose
Stop
forever.
it!
They can't get the shit off
Stop
their
it!
face.
Stop throwing it in the ocean. The ocean's a beautiful place. It should remain that way.
Well,
You know?
it's if it's biodegradable, like they say, then maybe the Earth wanted plastic for itself. That's why we're here.
Whatever. Yeah.
So we can bring plastic. It's the Earth plus plastic.
There's absolutely no reason. There's no excuse to throw
It's just one
plastic
of
in the
his
ocean.
children.
None. There's no reason to throw plastic in the ocean. And those islands of plastic, I have an idea on how to fix that wagon.
Yeah,
But going back to the gun thing, all right.
yeah.
We have this kind of sacred right of the Second Amendment.
Mhm.
It's not given to us by government. It's given to us by our creator, whoever that is, right? Even if you don't believe in a creator, you still have that right.
Well,
You can be an atheist.
Let's just say birthright.
It's your
Sure.
birthright. Yeah.
Sure, exactly. So, but those with great gifts, and you have great responsibility.
That's right.
And gun owners, like myself, should do everything they can to read up on pertinent laws to their state and municipalities, learn how to handle the weapon, fire the weapon, clean the weapon, maintain the weapon, and learn how to properly use it. Now, should that be mandated? I'm kind of on the fence on that, right? Because sometimes people that may not have wanted a weapon in before, but then they kind of feel, well, maybe there's a sudden need. There may not be enough time to go through all the training. Okay, you can buy a gun, but you got to get 6 months of training, right?
Yeah.
Well, someone's after them, that could try to do harm to them tomorrow. It doesn't really help them, right?
And that has actually happened.
That has happened.
There was this person, I think it was a woman, that was trying to protect herself against her ex. And because she had to go through all that red tape just to get a gun.
That scenario has happened God knows how many times.
What happened
so
to her?
Okay.
She got killed.
Her ex is
finally.
coming after her.
He finally did kill her because it took her too long to be able to get that gun. She had to go through too much. She had to go through too much red tape.
See,
And
ironically,
let me guess. She had a really long criminal history, right?
I don't remember, to be honest. I don't think she did.
Probably not. Probably
you know
not.
what though? The ironic thing about that is that when it comes down to it, the opponents of gun freedom of possessing firearms are going to tell you that what's more important, your precious little rights or the lives of the children and the lives of innocent people. Well, again, lives are more important. I would agree, and this is exactly why we should have the right to bear arms. Because that's what they're for, to protect your life.
Autumn,
or
okay.
protect your
Let
kid's
me
life.
let me throw this in here because
Right,
it
either
is
protecting your
categorically a fact that
Mhm.
firearm usage in this country is used far more, numerous times more, thousands of times more in the act of defense than it is for criminal use.
Mhm.
Okay, and so the reality of that is that, but you don't see the statistics.
on that because again they don't
Right, but
the DOJ doesn't have those stats. Well, how many times did a weapon prevent the thing from happening? Because the DOJ and the FBI is not going to know if somebody tries to rob into a house and they see a sign, "This house was protected by Smith and Wesson." I don't know. We should bypass that house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hey
can't
man, you want to
count.
bypass that house? This motherfucker got guns.
But can we just all Can we just all agree though on the fact that you cannot conflate gun ownership with your intentions of why you own a gun?
Exactly. True.
Well, yeah,
Like-
no, absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
dishonesty in the Democratic Party needs to be discussed because that's dishonest as hell. Most people who buy a gun do not buy a gun because they want to go outside to
Kill
shoot and
folks.
kill.
Yeah.
Right. They
So-
want it for defense. They want it for a number of reasons.
There's many things. Some people do it for sport and not actually
course.
use it to harm any damn body.
Yeah.
Like me and the boys, we go outside and we shoot BB guns in the woods because it's fun. We like
Yeah.
to see them.
Well,
We like to
look
we
at
like to, we like to see the bottles explode.
Right. But let's go to a historical context. Do you happen to know when the first school shooting was? The very
For
first
me?
school shooting either one of you. The very first school shooting in the US.
No, but I know it's like in the 70s, I think, or the early 80s.
1744.
Okay, I didn't know
Or
that.
sorry, 1764. That was the very first school shooting in the US.
Well, speaking of school shooting, let's also point out that there have been more than 10 shooters, mass shooters, who have been stopped by people because they were able to bear arms.
Well, the numbers are higher than that, but I don't have them in front of me. But school shootings have been a thing since before the Constitution even existed. Okay, before this nation even existed, they happened before. Okay, so they've always been with us. But when you look at the gun culture in the U.S. from the passing of the Second Amendment or the adoption of it, okay, all the way through to like even the early 90s, okay, in places like New York, New York had shooting clubs in high schools up until like 1993, if I remember correctly, early 90s, okay, and it was normal for a high school kid to have an elective to go through in class to do firearms.
Yeah.
Firearm safety. It's firearm safety training, right? They took away the mystery. Children are very curious beings. They're curious about the world around them. They want to touch, feel, whatever. So whenever you hide anything, you hide the magazine, you hide the food, you hide whatever. What's that kid going to do? As soon as the parents are away, they're going to go woo and rummage through it, right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you have guns that are, don't look at that. Nope, don't do that. Well, that's just going to create a more curiosity. So what they did from like turn of the century all the way through the 20s and 30s and 40s, I mean, dude, you could go through the Sears catalog and order a Tommy gun for $47 or $67, right? And have it mailed to your door.
Yeah, but cats will tell you that curiosity kills.
I understand that. But when you properly guide a child, especially, ages like 10, 11, 12, and you take them to a range, a field where it's safe to actually, and you teach them, you have a parenting moment, the mom, the father, either or both, whatever. And you say, this is how this works. And you get a watermelon, you get a cantaloupe, whatever. And you say, well, today we're going to learn how to shoot guns, right? As early as age 10. I shot my first rifle when I was 11 years old. Okay. And I did it through my scouting program. It was awesome. And we spent, like 5 or 6 months. We never touched the firearm, but we read up on it. We read up on the history of the flintlock and the cap and ball and all these things. And we were tested on our knowledge based on that before we ever got to fire a gun. And at the very end of the 6-month course, we got to go to the range and fire all these different types of firearms, semi-automatic, cap and ball, flintlocks, all these types of black powder rifles. And it was awesome. Right. And so from a very early age, I was taught, as millions of Americans have been in the past, to respect the tool that can kill you. Just like a hammer. Just like a hammer. A hammer is just as deadly in the wrong hands. Because if someone takes a hammer.
It's called gun safety.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, but it's safety in general, right? And so as the higher percentage of gun control regulations seeped in, shield the children from this stuff, right? Well, now you have a curiosity element. Now, let's address another big issue. Okay? We talked and Sophia brought this up earlier in the stream, talking about mental health, because a lot of these shooters are male, they're adolescents, or or shortly after adolescence, but listen, the majority of them are teenagers. Okay.
Yep, like what's
They're
going
out-
on over here right now. Everybody's
They're-
texting me, telling me to stay home. And guess
Right.
guess who's out there doing that? Teenagers.
Right.
But if we had
And-
universal
but-
health care and if we had no guns allowed, then we'd knock out two birds with one stone. That's what they'll
Yeah.
tell you.
Okay. That's what they'll tell you exactly. So
Yeah.
but getting to my point.
Yep.
So you have white male kids, teenagers, males, that have behavioral challenges, behavioral
Mhm.
issues. They can have a
Info.
myriad of things. But having grown up in the school system myself, having put 3 sons through the school system,
Hmm.
okay, you start looking at what's the genesis of the end event. You start from the end event, you work your way back. What did that adolescent white male go through? Okay.
Right.
Well, he was an outsider. Why was he an outsider? He didn't have social skills.
Mhm.
Why didn't he have social skills? Okay. Because he
Internet.
wasn't friendly. It wasn't, he was on the internet, but even before that, okay, because what was the first major, like the first Columbine? The internet
Mhm.
wasn't really a thing back then, right?
Right.
But these
Bullies.
kids were still bullies, right?
Hmm.
So, and that is a contributing element. But let's go back even further. Okay, let's go back to elementary grade. Okay, what is the biggest percentage of teachers in the kindergarten, elementary school age children?
Say that again.
The biggest percentage of teachers are in elementary and kindergarten age are what?
Oh, women.
Girls,
Women.
women.
Right. Young women that they're young because they like little kids. That's great.
Mhm.
It's kind of practice if they decide they want to have children in the future, right? But they don't necessarily have, not always, but because you have a lot of teachers that have had a lot of siblings and stuff, little siblings, so they're kind of a natural, right?
Hmm.
But they don't necessarily have
Plus,
experience.
we're just natural teachers. You know?
Hmm.
Well, and there's definite truth to that. However, I think we can all agree that young girls and young boys require different approaches to teaching. Yes,
Sometimes depends.
Depends.
most of the
Depends.
time.
Not gender. I mean,
Well,
depends.
let me ask you this: Are little girls easier to teach than little boys? Let's say ages
No.
between let's say between ages 5 in a classroom,
Well,
between the ages of like 5 and 11.
I'm a mom, and boys are easier to teach than girls.
Well, but you're talking from a different element. You're talking from a different environment. From a teaching environment, most teachers will tell you, especially from ages 5 to like 11, little girls are more eager to learn. They're more eager to sit still and listen to be taught. Boys, when they're away from their parents, okay, or mom or whatever, they tend to be
Rowdy.
they're rowdy. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
tend to be more rowdy in class because there's other boys to play with. There's other, there's
Mhm.
other things to see. It's away from home. It's not the norm every day, right? Because little boys are just different than little girls. Doesn't mean the boys are better. Doesn't mean the girls are better. That just means they're different. Okay.
Mhm.
So now, that's not even all boys. That's going to be a percentage of the boys. Let's say it's 5%. Let's be really conservative and say it's 5%. The 5% of those boys meet a teacher who is doing really well with the little girls and most of the little boys. That 5% of the student body, they're too hard to deal with. So the teacher, normal, would get frustrated. Johnny, you're not paying attention. You're staring out the window. What's 2 plus 7? And Johnny goes, what? Because that little boy is really creative, really curious, and he's trying to take in all this information in his outside world. And girls do it too, but it just happens to kind of at different times.
We get it, Mike. We get it. We
Yeah.
get it.
Okay. So now that teacher is gonna have a parent teacher conference with that 5% of the students' mom. Now, a lot of those parents, not all, but a lot of those parents, that might be their first or second child. First child was really good, or second child was really good, the first one's being a problem. That can all intermingle. The teacher may innocently enough say, well, maybe you should see a doctor about figuring out what approaches you can take to address this behavioral challenge. And the parent goes, that's probably a good idea. Let me talk to my doctor. So then the parent goes to the doctor, and the doctor goes, hey, I just read this study by Pfizer or whoever.
He got ADHD. He needs to be put on methamphetamine.
But what does that have to do with guns again? Oh, you're talking about the mental
there.
health. The mental health. Okay.
Mental
gotcha.
health. Okay.
Mhm.
So now you give this young child 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. You give them a chemical that's going to suppress the activity in the brain so that they can sit there
And not have imagination and dream and creativity
focus.
and things
Hold
that
on.
they need.
Focus.
So they can focus.
Focus.
Yeah.
Not
And
only
then,
that, not only
because
that,
now it's working because they're doing better in school. But now that kid who's normally out there rambunctious and boisterous and stuff and exploratory, he tends to be flat,
Mhm.
right? So now he comes back, and the other students they're not stupid. They figure, oh, he's on something.
Well, that's a good
So
point
now-
you're making.
hold on,
That's a really
hold
good point. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm getting to the good part. So now,
I
first,
already
second,
know
third
what he's
grade.
saying because
Hold
I've
on.
been
First,
doing
second,
that.
third. Well, let me finish. Don't let out the surprise. Okay? Because some folks may not understand where I'm going here, because this guy's all over the map, man. This guy with his beady hat's crazy. But so first, second, third grade, as he's growing through and growing up and interacting with others, the other kids are like, something's off with this kid. He doesn't behave like the other ones because he's attenuated, right? So then,
Mhm.
because he's different, the other boys and girls are picking on him. And now they're subject to being bullied. Now you go in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And year after year, they tell their teachers, hey, I'm being bullied. And the teacher oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes will ignore it. So then they go to the parent. And sometimes the parent, there's only one. Could be a single father, could be a single mother, but statistically it's going to be a single mother.
Mhm.
Single mother not knowing what it's like to be an adolescent boy unless they helped raise a younger sibling, which doesn't always happen. But even then, that firsthand experience they don't have that a father can impart to his son. Okay,
Right.
They don't know how to advise that child because they didn't go through it themselves personally. So the parent, the mother, in good faith, says just ignore it, and sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. The more you ignore it, the harder that bully factor will come into play. So now, after being in school for 4, 5, 6 years, hundreds and up to thousands of days in school, there comes a breaking point
Oh yeah.
for these young boys, these now adolescents that have no friends or very few friends. They felt like outsiders their entire life. Nobody fucking listens to them. And I'm not saying this is excuses. I'm saying this is the roadmap of how it gets there.
Yeah. it's the
Nobody's
cause and
listening
effect.
to them.
It's
Cause
the
and
cause.
effect.
Yeah. The
Nobody
cause and
fucking
effect
listens to
chain.
them.
Yeah.
They go to their trusted people, the teachers, the principals, the faculty, the staff. I'm getting bullied by so and so,
Well, Alejandro.
and they don't do anything about it.
Remember Alejandro? He would tell you that you're just acting like a legalistic lawyer trying to make excuses for criminals.
No,
Because
this is
that's exactly
no.
hold on, because exactly the point that you're making, I made that on that episode when I was talking about, we're all part of the causal chain, and a lot of criminals is because of their childhood and the things we grew up in this society. And he was saying, "Oh, that's just bullshit. You sound like these liberal, progressive
Well,
people."
Can I
And
say something
all,
to that?
you know,
Can I
yeah.
say something to that, Scott?
Mhm.
Please.
So I agree with Alejandro to a certain extent because as a
Mhm.
parent, it's on you to try to educate yourself and pay attention to what's actually going on in those schools and with your kids. Because what Mike explained, I already knew where he was going because that's what they tried to do to me and my
Mhm.
children.
Mhm.
So to make a long story short, just like he described, boys are very active and they have to be engaged. And a lot of these teachers don't really engage the students. They don't
Mhm.
even really most of the time don't give them recess. Like my daughter comes home every day and says that the teacher took the recess from them for this reason or that reason. They already
which is terrible.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you why.
Recess.
I'm gonna tell you why. In some of these public schools, especially if it's in a low income area, they actually train these kids to be institutionalized for the prison system. And so the type of rules that they apply to those children is the same type of shit you would see in the prison. And I know because I worked in a
Exactly.
prison. So
Exactly. No, you're exactly right.
They'll do shit like if one kid fucks up, the whole pod's in trouble, you know, but it's a class.
Pupil to prison pipeline.
Right. But it's, yeah. And so what they do is they take their recess away and make them all feel like they did something wrong because there's this one kid in there that's constantly acting up, instead of holding the parent responsible and saying, look, if you can't get your kid under control when he comes to school, your kid ain't gonna be able. Well, I'm just saying,
and that does open a can of worms, because then it can invite like abusive situations. You know what I mean?
No, I don't mean it like that, but at the same, no, I'm not. That's no, you going home.
It can. It doesn't always, but it can. How many kids did you know? Well, since you've had your children, how many other parents did you know that they talk about beating the kid's ass?
Okay, but beating the kid's ass is not necessarily abusive. It's just you can say it like that.
It depends on who you ask.
You know.
I know what you mean. No, I know exactly what you mean. I grew up in that household.
You know, you can reword it and say, I chastised my child there. Fix it for you. Okay.
Yeah. No. And there's different approaches that work for different kids, because guess what? Kids have different personalities.
Right.
So how does this tie into Alejandro's thing?
I'm trying to get there. Shit. Anyway, like I was saying, rather forgot. Thanks, Mike.
He interrupted, not me. I'm sitting here just being quiet.
Anyway, like I was saying, so these teachers don't really engage these children anymore like they used to. You know, when we were young, we did a lot of shit. Our teachers were on our asses. They paid attention to us. They worked with us one-on-one. They had a grip on the classroom. You know, they were stern teachers, real teachers. Nowadays, it's a lot of young girls that like to eat their snacks.
They want to be your friend.
They want to be your friend. They want to eat their little snacks, play on Facebook and all that other shit. And the kids can see, she ain't paying attention to me. So they're not doing whatever.
I can do what I want.
Yeah, they do what they want. And then when the kids act out, you blame it on the child and say your kid's ADHD. So what they do now basically is they have this form already available, a big old stack of it. And the minute your kid gets out of line in any kind of way, you basically have to comply with the teacher who almost is at liberty to say your child is ADHD. You know, in so many ways.
And that's a bad mess. That's a bad formula.
Okay.
And even though I'm getting there, and even though they don't say it and they can't say it because they're not doctors, but they also work in cahoots with the doctor that they send you to. Well, you need to go see this and this doctor who specializes in ADHD medicine and all of that and behavior and stuff. And then they send you to a specific doctor who's going to look at the list and pretty much check at least 5 of those so he can diagnose.
Yeah, because his work's already been done by a teacher.
Right. So
who gave her medical degree?
Right.
Or him.
So in just that quick, my son was diagnosed with ADHD. Like there was no real evaluation, no nothing.
How many boys in the last 35 years have been 50 years have been diagnosed with ADHD or ADD?
Right. But let's
pretty good percentage of them.
But that just plays into my point that caused.
Hold up, I'm not done. I'm trying to tie this into Alejandro. Shit, what's wrong with y'all today, man?
Okay, go ahead.
Take a chill pill. Anyway, like I was saying, so anyway, he gets diagnosed with ADHD. They prescribe him Vyvanse. Vyvanse is 100% methamphetamine. And the first night he took it, he had nightmares. The second day he stopped eating. So I looked the drug up and I found out that it's 100% methamphetamine and it's only one molecule off from the shit you get on the street that meth heads do. So I went back to the doctor and I said, like, are you kidding me? You gave this to my fucking 8-year-old? Like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, well, yeah, that's because the chemical imbalance and whatever. And it works for
Chemical
this.
imbalance.
And I was like, well, first of all, my son is seeing a spider that's the size of a house trying to eat him, and he's not eating any food. He's completely like acting like a schizophrenic, basically.
Right.
And so he was like, oh, well, that's probably because he has an allergic reaction to methamphetamine. Like, yes.
Gee, I wonder
every-
why.
So I guess every meth head out there that sees shadow figures has an allergic
Oh, they're
reaction,
just having
right?
an allergic reaction.
Well, but let me,
Nothing
you know,
wrong.
But
let me
here's
throw-
the thing.
But let her finish
What-
because I want to
what-
see
what
how
I-
this ties in.
What I'm
Yeah.
getting to, so me as a parent, I took initiative because I really see they put you in this position where, okay, you're a single mom, you're working, you need the school because who else is going to watch your kid? But
Mm,
we're not going to let your kid be here unless your kid's on medicine. So what they do is you have to check in every 3 months and they do a blood test on your child to make sure that you're administering the medicine. So
Right.
I, as a parent, I had to improvise because I wasn't going to let my kid be addicted to some drug like that because there was nothing wrong with my kid. And so that's where the parenting skills come in at, it wasn't
So what
easy.
you're saying, right?
It
In
wasn't
other words, you
easy.
got involved.
So what?
You
So
got
what?
got involved,
you did the
And I
parental
told,
thing.
and I told
Good
my
for
son,
you.
look, I'm not going to give you this medicine because I don't believe that you should be taking this, but I also need you to be able to go to this school because I'm working full time and we got to eat. We got to have a roof over our head. So if I hear from a teacher one time that you're not listening or doing what they say, I'm whooping your ass
Mhm.
straight up.
Well,
So
here's
he went to school and I never had another problem with him. And when it came close to him getting tested, I'd give him a like they switched him from Vyvanse to some other kind of stimulant that really didn't have the same effect.
right.
And then I would give him one of those for like a few days before he got tested, just to make it seem
Show
like
up in show up in the test. Yeah.
yes, just so it can show up. And
I think that I've never heard of that
But-
before, but that's terrifying. I mean,
Yeah,
my
and
kids
then-
thankfully didn't go through that.
Yeah, and then here's the kicker part. Now, if you're a parent that just goes along with it, because I mean, a lot of parents think, okay, well, they know best, let's just do it.
Mhm.
And so most parents go along with that. So what happens?
Trust the experts.
Yeah, when these kids turn 18, so a lot of times, let me add this too. A lot of times parents go along with it too. Let's not, let's keep it all the way.
Oh, I
real.
agree, because they
Get money-
blindly
Now,
trust
not-
the
not
experts,
just
the
that,
science.
Not just that, they get money for those kids. They're at that point, they're able to get disability for those children.
Right. But here's
So
the point.
That's
that
also right. I'm almost done. Like 2 more seconds,
Mhm.
a little more. But so a lot of parents just go along with it because they believe the experts and because they able to draw checks on their children after they're diagnosed with that and get put on medicine. Okay, so but the sad part is the child is the one that's suffering the most, and this literally creates the mindset of a criminal because of
There you
everything
go.
that because
Boom.
everything.
That's what I'm saying.
because-
That's what I'm
because-
trying to get to.
And
This-
and
okay,
that's the point I was going to make.
Shit. Anyway, just like Mike said, because of those reasons, but then
Yes.
also here's the biggest reason that a lot of people might not know, and I've seen it. I watched my friend's son grow up that way. And anyway, at 18, they cut you off. The SSI is gone, the medicine is gone. And what you think that teenager is going to do now?
Thank you.
He's gonna go to the street.
He's
where
going to
he-
crash.
Thank
Wait.
you.
where he can get methamphetamine.
This is where Alejandro's
now-
wrong.
and
This is
now
what
you-
I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying.
right, and I'm
is
trying to
that
explain. I'm trying to
It-
explain.
it's the kid is not. It's not the kid's fault.
No, it's not the child's fault, but
Right.
it is the parents.
They're already
fault.
hopped up on it. They're
Parents'
dependent
fault,
on it.
Right.
It's the
They're
parents'
dependent
fault.
on it.
It's the
It's a
parents-
combination.
It's a combination of the parent not being involved. But then that goes into why is the parent single? Why does the parent need the school to watch their kid? Because usually it's a household where there's no father. So it's just a cycle.
Right. So now dovetailing that back into what I was saying earlier, because that's where I was headed on my story, which that dovetails perfectly in there. So great. My point is that these kids, when they get to the age of 18, 19, 17, 18 years old, and they're in high school and they get, cut off at 18, they for the last 10, 12 years, nobody's friggin' listened to them. Right? So now they want attention. What's the fastest, easiest way to get attention?
Crime.
I'm going to get revenge on every friggin' other student that treated me like shit since I was in grade school.
Bullied me, laughed at me.
And the teachers that never listened to me and all that other stuff, right? But you never hear about the history of the kids of what kind of life that they lead or that they live prior to this whole thing happening, right? And Columbine's a really good example of that.
Right.
Okay, you have this group of outsiders, the trench coat mafia, okay? And I was young when that happened. I was like, those kids look like, they had parents that just were, probably well-to-do, but they just didn't have time for their kids.
Okay, now let me ask you this. So we can all agree that this is systemic, right?
Totally systemic.
So now we know this. What's the purpose of it?
What's the purpose of it? To create a more dependent society on government.
Right. So we can agree that society does create some of these issues that we have in our society.
Well, society from the vantage of the mindset that government can solve all of our problems, that science is the answer to all of our problems.
Okay,
science isn't inherently bad.
Mike,
it's how the science is used.
Mike, what I'm saying is we just established a simple fact. We established in this whole scenario that this is totally systemic, right? And there's some accountability, to the parent as well. And even the teachers who would go along with that shit just so they can get a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we know it's systemic. We know there's people going along with it, whether it be the teachers, the doctors, and the parents. But the child is not at fault. So
to a point.
What I'm saying is, why do you say to a point? Like what could a child do about his own circumstances when they're a child? When you have adults around them dictating their life, they can't do anything other than that. So we have to see it.
My oldest child was able to figure out some things, and now my son's on the spectrum. My oldest boy's on the spectrum. Okay, he's high functioning Asperger's kid, and he's freaking brilliant. And he dealt with bullies because he was always the tallest kid in class, which is kind of funny because I'm not very tall. But he was bullied incessantly. And now, mind you, he had a mother and a father to work with and help guide how to navigate that environment. And he could have been one of those kids,
right?
But we limited his.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. Oh my God! Like maybe I don't know how to explain it. What I'm saying is that we can't hold the child responsible. That's a fact. Okay. But
not until he's after 18.
We can't say even after he's 18, he already fucked up in the head. 9 times out of 10, a child, even when they grow up, they're not going to just snap out of it. Is that what you're saying? They're just going to snap out of it?
No. But even with
the majority of those children that this happened to are not going to snap out of it. So I'm saying the systematic way of how this is being done to target specific groups of people. I'm saying that it is something that we have to partially blame on society.
Well, in my interpretation of that phraseology, that you're not the only one that uses that. I mean, obviously, but blaming society is kind of the surface element of the why. It goes so much deeper than just blaming society, right? It can just say, because as human beings, okay, we like to try to find a single cause of, a single root cause, right? I think there's dozens, if not hundreds, of causes that all contribute to,
right,
kind of butterfly effect.
That's what I was going. That was I did say that. I said it's not just who is responsible for making these processes. First of all, the government, right?
Right. Who puts the
It-
government in charge?
who the government who makes these. But a lot of people don't even know that this shit is going on. Like a lot of people are not even aware of it because it's being done so
Mhm.
slickly. You know,
Well,
As a-
no,
as a-
it's not
as
even
a-
that. It's not even
as-
that.
as a
People
parent-
have their lives to deal with.
yeah, but as a parent, if you're told that your child needs this and needs that, and that your child is sick, and you're supposed to listen to the experts, most parents will listen to that. So, are they bad parents for listening to the experts?
That's a much more complex issue because it really depends on what those experts are saying. Because in any,
Well-
like in any other field, like in any other professional field, you're going to have good doctors, you're going to have great doctors, you're going to have mediocre doctors, you're going to have shit doctors.
Yeah, I know that, but
Okay.
like oh man, Mike, you're just like stubborn as hell. Like I'm trying to tell you, the shit is systematic, and we already agreed on that. Systematic means
Okay, that's
What
great. I get that. But there's more to it than just being systematic. We can't just throw up our hands and go, oh, it's systematic. Okay, then throw the whole thing out.
Well, yeah, because that shit right there needs to go. First of all, teachers need to be engaging their students correctly. Okay.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Don't expect the children to sit there for fucking 8 hours a day and not move if you're not engaging them. So
Okay.
how I deal with that, I'm the type of mom, I'm showing up at school. I because of me, one teacher was fired already.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
a good first step.
I'm not the one to play with.
Here's how I would approach it. Okay. Start bringing back physical education in elementary school.
Yeah.
Bring back recess. Bring back for kindergarten, first, second, third grade,
Right,
nap
but then
time.
They always have an
Nap
excuse.
time.
But see, they always have an excuse as to why they take away the recess, and they have
Because we don't have the money. Bullshit.
they have used recess as a way to control the children. If you don't do this or if you don't do that,
You don't get
you don't get recess. And like
There
I
need,
said,
we need to return to the older methods of teaching.
okay, so
We
would you
can look.
so would you agree that teachers need to be held to a higher standard?
That's one part of the element. The other part
Yeah.
is the parents also have to be held to a high standard.
I know, and I said that already. I said you can't just blame it all on the school or the system or the teachers, because in my case, I was the kind of parent who was involved.
Right, but okay, your involvement is the outlier. The average parent, well, it's becoming better now because of
Yeah,
all the
but
stuff that's been going on in
But
schools
that's
lately.
but that's what I was
Okay.
also going to allude to. That's a constant battle.
Don't allude, just say.
That's a constant fight as a parent to be involved
Mm-hmm.
to that extent when you're also a single parent and you're the only breadwinner, and still
I get that.
pay attention to what these people do. So
I get that.
it's a constant battle, and a lot of people can't even do that because they're stuck at work. But again, like I said, it goes back to being homes that are without a father, and then that's that has to be addressed as well. Like you said, it goes
Well,
into
and right, but that I mean, the child comes into the home before they go into the school.
what's Scott
Okay.
doing?
We can't hear you, Scott. Your audio is gone.
We have not. I'm thinking you talking to somebody else or something. Yeah, he's just in the background.
I sent you a message in the back in the back chat, and we can't hear you. So I'm like, all right, well, Sophie and I are doing great. But
wait.
there you are.
Okay. Yeah,
Now
I was
we hear you.
I was wondering why is
So-
everybody cut in front of me? Okay, but
Right.
I want
So what I was saying
This
is that Alejandro has a point by saying that the responsibility is not just on the government and the schools and
Nor should it be. Nor should it be.
shouldn't
That
at
responsibility should not be shuffled off to them
it should
completely.
be on everybody.
Right,
See,
so
this
it
is
should-
what I was trying to say. Really, what I was trying to tell Alejandro was that for every event, there's a cause. So when we look at criminality, we have to look at how are criminals made in society. That's all I was saying. He was saying, well, you sound like a lawyer trying to make excuses. I was like, no, I'm not making excuses. I'm just dealing with the data, the facts. The facts are everything you just said, Sophie and Mike. Both of you guys said it, that there's causes for why kids are neglected and then end up with criminal-minded behavior, And all I'm saying is we have to figure out how to address it.
Right.
But
like
he was
said,
saying
Mike,
that we have free will. Once you get 18, you can just choose not to be a criminal. All you got to do is snap out of it, like you said.
Yeah,
I never,
no.
I never said that.
Not
Huh?
you.
No,
I'm
not
saying
you,
Alejandro.
not you.
Oh, okay.
Not
I'm
you.
saying Alejandro. Yeah, because he
No,
was
like
he
Mike,
was,
I agree
he
with
was-
Mike. There are root issues to things that need to
Right,
be addressed, and that's all we're saying. That's all we're saying is that
That's all we're saying, right?
there
right.
there are root causes that need to be addressed, and like
Exactly.
you said, the responsibility shouldn't be just on the schools and stuff, because like you said, that's like relying on the government 100%. And so
Exactly.
if that's the case, then you shouldn't be a parent if you have to rely on the government 100%.
Right.
Well,
That's how I
yeah,
feel.
but that's, I mean, we both know that, or all of us know that's never going to really happen. People are going to become parents, because that's just human nature.
That's human
Right.
nature.
That's,
But
so
it's
Right.
like you were saying.
here's my here's a recommendation. Obviously, we can't have every child grow up in a mother-father situation, right? That's unrealistic. However, we can have a better balance of male and female influences in school.
Exactly. Amen. Because in New Orleans, after Hurricane Katrina, they started opening these charter schools, and me and the kids lived there for a little while. And after the storm, and so the way they did just that, like what you said, that's why I cut in. They had male mentors in that school, and
Yeah,
those men
and
were
a lot of those
stepping
male
in and
mentors, they do amazing work.
amazing.
You get a 45-year-old black dude that has raised a couple kids, that has
Yep.
that's been working with the school. You want to know how cool those guys are to talk to? Holy shit! They got some of the best wisdom you'll ever come across.
They was teaching teaching those boys how to dress in a nice suit, and teaching them manly manners and stuff.
Yes.
And the
How to be a
boys,
gentleman.
and the boys were looking forward to going to school, because since they didn't have a dad, every boy longs for that connection to a male, to have that connection with a male figure.
And girls long for it too.
Yeah, and so that's what we need to do. We need to bring male figures into schools that can set really good examples and be.
You want to talk about equal representation? Wait. You want to talk about equal representation in the workplace? Let's start looking at the school system.
No, you know what the problem is? The problem is the woke society is going to say that all you're really doing is you're promoting toxic masculinity by saying that men are going to fulfill this place that women can't fulfill. Women can do just what men can do.
Well, no, I disagree.
That's how they look at it.
I disagree, because a lot of times women do not have the I don't know what's the word for it, but they can't stand it when a bunch of kids act up. It irritates them too much. And so as mothers, we kind of learn how to tune out, because if we didn't tune out, we would lose our fucking minds. Like when there's three munchkins running around, we know how to wash the dishes
15
and tune that shit out. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times they'll just tune out or get highly aggravated and start.
But I want to clarify something there. That's not to suggest that women are incapable of something. It just means that men and women are different.
Right.
They approach things differently.
Right. It's just different. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that we're not capable, because some of us are.
Right. No. But anybody who sees the video down the road, you are anti-woman. No, I'm not.
I'm just saying that I am a woman, so I'm not anti myself.
Are you a biologist? Let me see your biology degree.
Like, what was it last show? I was telling Scott and them, or the show before that, I was telling them a little story. When I was a single mom, first starting out with 2 little babies, I was losing my mind. I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know. Like, it was out of control. And so one time my son was running around in this place, and he wouldn't sit down, and I didn't know what to do, because I couldn't leave the infant and go running after him, so I was like, what do I do? And this man was watching all this stuff, and he was seeing that I just couldn't handle it. And then all he did was say one thing. He said, "Hey, boy," and my son just froze. Like he just stopped. You know, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm up here screaming and yelling, trying to run after him and threatening him with whippings and everything. And he just, you know, just gone and shit. And then this man says one damn thing and he just freezes like a little soldier. So that's just how you know, like, it's like a natural thing that's built in, you know. You can't help that. It's just how it's just nature.
Yeah, it's nature.
But
that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that women are weak. It doesn't mean that women are incapable. It just means that women have a different set of skills.
Yeah.
And men have a different set of skills.
It just seems
when
like
men and women wait. When men and women work together,
that's
in the element of, you know, being an actual team, then those strengths combined make for a good home life for the most part. Now, you're going to have toxic people that get together. That's going to be a thing. But then this goes back to that environment where in the schools you have a better balance of men and women teaching, you know, boys and girls, because little girls are going to benefit from having a female teacher and a male teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, different classes, that kind of stuff, different approaches to things, right? And that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing, because little boys and little girls should get those examples from mentors that are both men and women. Children should get mentoring from their own parents, even if you have a separated couple. What a lot of folks that are in the singles, you know, it's kind of the singles environment, they remain, especially nowadays, they remain in this childish permanence, in that this childish permanence, meaning, like, you meet somebody who's in their mid-30s, they got 2 kids, right? They're 34, 35 years old, and they're still acting like they're 18, 19, 20 years old. They're hanging out with the boys, they're going to the club, they're going to the bar, they're drinking all the time every weekend, right? Meanwhile, their kids, the people that they were involved in creating, they're just sitting there going, "Where's my dad?" Or "Where's my mom?" Because women do it too, right? It's an equal opportunity situation.
Because people don't understand that when they have children, your life's over. Like,
well, no, it's not. No. Hang on. That's a bad approach. Your life isn't over.
Not to that.
I get that, but it's a mindset.
It's not your own anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
because you made the decision.
There's going to be
to bring a life into the world.
Right. There's going to be things you have to sacrifice. That's all
responsibility.
I'm
right. It's called responsibility.
Your parents did it. Your parents did it. My parents did it. Okay. But nowadays, because we're so focused on like the me, well, why do I have to buy my kids, you know, these expensive shoes when I need shoes too? Maybe you can hold off on your shoes because your feet ain't growing. Your kids' feet are growing.
But here's a question, Mike. It seems to me, you tell me what you think. It seems to me that culture, which is influenced by far left progressives, I think, are trying to create this artificial world where they just rebel against nature. It's almost like they say, they say that you don't need men, you don't need this, you don't need these things that are obviously natural, and you're denying like millions of years of evolution in the process.
A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Yeah, it's like they try to create this narrative that because of empowerment and individuality, you should just reject that you need men, that you need drugs, you don't need to worry about diet and exercise, you need to work. All these things that we're talking about seems to be rooted in this attitude, this progressive leftist attitude of artificial culture, this postmodern sort of thing.
What if I was to blow your mind real quick?
Yeah.
There's room for both ideologies. Okay. Because personally, I don't think everybody should be parents, at least maybe not till later on.
I believe that.
Okay. All right. So, being that I like individual choice, if you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. If you decide, you know, later on you want to have kids, okay, put it off. Right? Maybe you wait too long, but that's the consequence of that choice. Right? Those who want to have kids, don't shame them. Don't tell them that they're, oh, you're
Too
giving
young.
into the patriarchy or anything,
Mhm.
let them, you decide to have kids? Cool. How many are you going to have? 4, 3, 1, 6, 5? Great. Hey, more power to you. Raise kids. You're going to raise, you're going to raise them in a loving home with 2 loving parents, right? What about this? What if those parents are the same sex? I don't necessarily have a problem with that. As long as those parents are parents, but they involve somebody in the family of the other gender, the other sex, to be involved in that child's upbringing so that they don't see this myopic pathway.
Now, the problem there is, naturally, kids are raised by a mother and a father. If you have 2 fathers, or if you have 2 effeminate men, what kind of child do you think he's going to grow up to be?
That all depends on the individual child.
But I mean, don't you think that you're open
because how many children reject their parents' ideology?
Yeah, probably 100% of them.
Right. So so in my mindset, I don't think that 2 effeminate men raising a child or 2, that guarantees that child's going to kind of be in the same, like, it could happen, sure, but there's no guarantee of that because the child, they're their own individual.
I wouldn't say guarantees it, but it could have an influence because I mean,
right. But then again, how many straight parents had kids that were gay?
Yeah, but that's not
okay.
Like, not
it doesn't mean
child
they're guaranteed to be straight.
Like, I'm saying, not every child. The norm isn't that every child that has a 2-parent household with a man and a woman turns out gay. By your logic,
no. I'm not. No, I'm saying it still happens throughout history. You know what I mean?
But I'm
one way or the other doesn't guarantee an outcome.
No, it doesn't guarantee it, but I'm saying the likelihood could be higher because that's the example that's being set.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to read studies on it, but but I don't think that single element is gonna be more or less likely to have an outcome as some on the right are very, very much against. Right.
I mean, like you said, if there's still outside influences, and if they're still exposed to like a male figure or whatever the scenario may be, we don't just base everything on our own home life. I mean, we watch TV, we go to school.
Of course,
there's lots of influences. A lot of other different things.
There's lots of influences, and I think there's room.
Yeah, so I mean,
for most of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just don't try to force the kid down a certain path. Let the child develop on their own. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
Guide them. Teach them the important stuff. This is how you manage your money. This is how you learn history. This is how you learn math. This is how you learn all this stuff. Here's all this other information.
Here's just an alternative view. I'm not saying it's true. There's an alternative view from what I understand. Like in certain countries in Africa, every kid has what they call a mentor that they grow up. This is a man, and a very strong man is supposed to mentor the young boy to be a man. By the time he's 12, he's supposed to be, come of age, right? And that's something they take pride of. And it's something that I think helps young boys develop into strong individuals, I think.
Yeah, but that cultural norm is not unique to African nations. That's
right, and I'm just saying it's an example. But what I'm saying is, in America, we have this whole far left idea that those sort of things are unacceptable, that they're toxic masculinity, that we need to, they support like gay marriage and gay people to raise kids. And we know that most abuse that kids, most pedophiles are gay. So what you're saying, no, this is the data. I'm not making this up. This is the data. The data says most boys, well, first of all, more boys are abused by gay men than women. That's just the fact. And these,
I have to read it. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying I'd like to read that data. Right.
You should, and it's there. I went through it. And
well,
it's just a fact.
can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Can I say something to that? So it would make sense that I've read that study because Scott showed it to me, but it would make sense that if you're living in a society where being gay is looked down upon and you're being ostracized for it, and then the gay person has to suppress their homosexuality, it would make sense that it comes out in that type of way. Not saying it's right or, but if you have to suppress your sexuality, sexual energy is very powerful. And
Sure,
if you
of
don't,
course.
if you don't channel it in a healthy way, it usually comes out in a bad way.
But what
That's
creates
why
gay people in the first place? That's the question.
I think that's a very super complicated question.
Yeah,
it is. That's the whole point. Is that
you can't say that one thing. You can't say that one thing creates. Some people are born that way. Some people
I'll be honest
have
with
that
you,
type
and
of,
I don't hate anybody. Let me just say that first.
Neither do I.
I don't dislike.
I want them
anyone
to succeed just as much as anybody else.
Right.
I was just trying to say that if people would be more accepting of the fact that there are homosexual people, regardless of how they come to be, and those people don't have to be ashamed of their sexuality.
Let them choose. Let them choose their life.
Then we would probably also see less criminal activity when it comes to sexuality, especially when it comes to children, because a lot of times that is a way that a predator, they become predators because they have to let out their sexuality.
But keep in mind, I could be wrong, but I would suspect that heterosexual people that assault children, a 50-year-old guy molests a 6-year-old girl, that happens just as much. So I don't think it has anything to do with sexuality. I think it has to do with a short circuit, in the minds where.
And then a lot of times,
you know what I mean?
Me personally, I don't always like to, go by statistics 100% because we also have to take in consideration that a lot of times sexual abuse happens within the family. And a lot of times, of times it goes unreported.
That creepy Uncle Joe.
Yeah, especially because
in my experience, just in my own personal experience,
especially because of the shame factor, a lot of people just never report it at all.
Well, yeah, no, yes. I can talk from firsthand experience. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So we don't know for sure what the statistics. We would never.
I don't know. Just for me, I don't need statistics. All I need to know is I don't need to choose. I can't choose to be gay. Like for me, if I'm sticking my thing in a little kid, my ass is gay. Let me tell you like that. If you're a straight person,
there's bigger problems.
No.
You got bigger problems than that, friend.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're a straight person, you ain't gonna have that kind of attitude. You ain't gonna have that kind of goal. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be turned on. Before. How are you gonna be turned on by another man or a male if you ain't gay? That's what I don't understand.
Why is it? Well, no.
Well, the point
I don't know why child molestation got pulled into the conversation because those two things are barely parallel in my mind.
I don't know,
because I think a heterosexual and the homosexual element as regards to the outliers, the small percentages, the fractional percentages of people that behave in that manner that assault children.
Okay? I've had family members. I've had my brother and me.
I'm sure most of us have.
We've had people that came in our house that were gay, that were invited by our mother, who liked them. We were little kids, and that gay guy turned around and tried to make moves on us as little kids. So my experience with gay people is a little different than y'all's. Like my experience of what I've seen with gay people is that they target you. That's my experience. I'm not saying they all do. I don't know.
Throwing a blanket statement out like that.
But what I was saying though
is an issue.
What I was saying in response to that though, Scott, is I have seen the same type of behavior, but I'm saying a lot of it has to do with if you're forced to suppress your sexuality in a society that is
that could be why it's that way.
Of that. And that it makes sense that it psychologically would turn them into some kind of predator because they know they have to do it in secret. So doing it in secret with a child would be the safer route because that child, can't tell or whatever. It would be harder to approach another adult in a society where that's not even acceptable. You see what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is if we let people live the way they want to live without ostracizing them and treating them like they're less than because of their sexuality, then maybe they can form healthy relationships with other adults who feel the same way without feeling, whatever. I think that sexual suppression leads to perversion. And I think we can all agree on that, that's what happens.
Yeah, it's a good theory. It's a good theory. I will give you that. It sounds good on paper. But I'm just saying that from my experience,
right. But
what I'm saying
in mind,
is that
your experience, my experience, those are anecdotal. You have to get more data than just a single.
Yeah, but then we go back into statistics and data. It seems to me that
but how else do we quantify it?
But that's what I'm saying. You put them both together. And from what I've read, the data matches what we all experience about this situation.
Well, but it also depends. But hold on. How much data did you induce?
Well, I've still got it on my computer.
I get you.
It's there.
I think it's safe to say that you probably haven't looked at all the data because all the data doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you have your experience plus any data you can gather and it all sort of corroborates, I think that would be data. I mean, evidence.
Okay, but
evidence.
time out. I think we're talking past each other here.
Yeah.
Because at least I did. I already acknowledged the data, and the data could very well be true. But I'm saying there's probably a reason for it.
Yeah.
And so
no, I hear you. Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the root issue of something, getting to the root issue. So the question is, if that data is true, why is it that gay people especially behave that way if that data is true?
Well, here's the thing to look at. Here's an idea. If you look at European countries where the gay lifestyle is accepted and is open, out in the open, if you look at the rate of pedophilia in those countries, and you compare it to America where it's more less, where it's less, and you look at Europe.
That's what I've been saying the whole
Europe,
time.
But no. Europe's set. I'm saying that I've read certain studies where, like in what was that country? Damn, I can't even think of the country. But they were saying that the rates of pedophilia was really high because they accepted gay in the open. And so then kids became more susceptible to abuse. That's what they were saying in that particular. I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true because those type of countries like France, they're also more liberal towards child molestation. Like, let's face it, they're trying to, like in France, make the legal age to like 13 and 14. So it's not just that they're more they are places that are more acceptable to gays, but they're also more open to having sex with minors as well. So when they say liberal, we're liberal when it comes to sexuality. They're liberal, like liberal towards.
But that same argument applies to Arab countries where you can marry women off when they're turned 12, 13 years old, and then they're not considered pedophilia. But as far as I'm concerned, that is. It's like that. That's obvious. Like Mohammed.
But that lends back to cultural differences, scientific.
In countries like that, you're not
advancement, right? To how the mind evolves and grows as a child, right? What children, like what capabilities their minds are able to understand, right? The consequences of actions and stuff, especially when it comes to intimacy, right? And so we can't. At least from my perspective, we can't just go and change everything in every culture in every country, right? Because they're all going to be different. Because guess what? We're just countries all, the cultures all evolve differently. So focusing on kind of here in the U.S., it's a vast, complex process for situation. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at these countries, they're just as high as in America, and a lot of it has to do with like religion, like this particular artist.
And what do they do? But what do? They practice abstinence, right? How realistic is it for a man to stay abstinence for his whole life?
Right. That's a good point.
That's not realistic.
That's a really good point.
That's not realistic. So it goes back to what I said. When you suppress sexuality, it comes out perverted.
Gotcha.
You can't.
Gotcha. Good point.
I mean, that's my whole point, because if there's a healthy way to be sexual, and then there's an unhealthy way to be sexual, and sexual suppression usually leads to unhealthy outlets, sexual outlets. Can we all?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
that's common sense.
There are some people who can be abstinent for their whole life and literally master that over their own body, but there ain't many people.
Yeah, but it just gets back to the point of
there ain't many people who master that.
Two men having a child, raising a child, two gay men with a little child. I mean, that raises a red flag with a lot of people.
But I don't think that's the only metric to go off of. Okay, because there's plenty of same-sex couples that have children, that the children grow up fine. They're not abused. They're not.
Yeah.
If anything,
I mean,
if
maybe
anything, a lot of those children. Hold on. I think it's safe to say that many, let's say heterosexual and homosexual, people, okay, they've experienced some level of sexual abuse as children. I think that's one of the big ugly secrets in the U.S. in general, right? I think a vast percentage of the population have experienced sexual assault as children. Okay, whether or not it was violent, but it was assault nonetheless, because they were minors, they were children, they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. Okay, and so going off that presumable fact, some of them are going to be heterosexual, some of them are going to be homosexual, right? So if they're married and they know what clues to look for because they went through it and they raised children, that homosexual couple may be more apt to defend that child from other elements so their children don't experience that. That's equally possible.
It's possible.
So it has nothing. So in my view, I don't think it has anything to do with oh, well, you're gay, then that means you must be
all I'm really saying,
possible
Mike,
to do this thing.
All I'm really saying, Mike, is that
I just don't want to point everybody to a bucket.
No. If you go off the media and the studies and things like that say that gay people can have healthy families just like anybody else. These are coming from politically motivated, far left, progressive ideologies. These studies, science.
Well, I think the plurality. I think the plurality leans that way, but that doesn't guarantee it, because you got right-leaning people. You got right-leaning people that are really religious that are doing the same shit.
But what I'm saying is, like, if you look at climate change, that's not really an ideology, because I mean, homosexuality has been around since forever. And even in native tribes, you had what's called two spirits, and a lot of times, like if there was kids who lost their parents and they were orphans, a lot of times two-spirited people would take them in and become their parents, and there wasn't a problem with it. So the thing I'm saying is, I think the norm is for a man and a woman. That's just kind of natural. That's natural.
But for whatever reason, it does happen that some people are more feminine or homosexual or lesbian. So with that being said, that's okay. But where my problem comes in at is when the left promotes it as if it should replace what's the norm, and then people need to feel guilty for being straight. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where my issue comes in at. Let's not try to take the anomaly and replace what's normal.
But that's the slippery slope. It's like, the thing about it is, if we start saying that, oh, they can raise kids, it's okay, then it leads, that's what they want you to do. They want you to start giving them a little bit a little inch here and there, the next thing you know, they've mastered their agenda. So when you sit there,
I don't agree with that, because like I said, in native tribes, you had two-spirited people, and then not the whole tribe didn't become gay, and the whole tribe didn't all of a sudden start.
True, but I mean, is the whole concept of two spirit, is that like, has that been proven to be like, oh well, two spirit means this? You know, maybe two spirit could mean they have, you know, they're real moody, and some days they're really angry, and some days they're really happy. Maybe they got multiple personalities. I don't know.
No, a two-spirited person is a person that has the masculine and the feminine energies equally, like a tomboy, for example.
Right, but this, okay, hang on. Let me address that. Okay.
But sometimes a two-spirited person can be attracted to the same sex.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Two-spirited is in the dictionary. It says two-spirited means a member of the North American Indian tribe that sees gay, lesbian, or transgender as part of their natural family.
No, that's a wrong definition. That's not the right definition.
And then there's another one. It says,
is that an evolved definition?
It says male, female, and sometimes intersex individuals who combine activities of both men and women with traits unique to their status as two-spirit people. In most tribes, they were considered neither man nor woman. They occupied a distinct alternative gender status.
Okay, right. and obviously that exists, right? But just because a girl's a tomboy and likes to do boyish things or male proclivities, so to speak, doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're gay, right?
No, just because a boy
likes to play with, you know, pink things, doesn't automatically mean that they're gay. They just like the brighter color. It's a brighter color than blue, right?
I don't even know if gay is even a thing. Like, there's men in prison.
Okay, hello, can y'all hear me?
Go ahead.
I swear, but that's what I'm saying. A two-spirited person doesn't necessarily have to be attracted to the same sex. It's more like, I was using a tomboy as an example. It's basically about the masculine and feminine energies that we all have within, just like your biological body has both. Even as a woman, you make testosterone, but you don't make as much as a man, obviously. But then you have some people who can be hormonally intersex, and they have more masculine hormones, even though you're a female.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that biologically I'm not a female, and it doesn't guarantee that I'm going to be attracted to the same sex. But a lot of times it can happen though, just based on how much testosterone you make.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question. Do you think two-spirited people were the majority or the minority among the Indians?
No, they were the minority, and a lot of times they were actually the medicine women or medicine men of the community, because they had more insight, since they were like on the spectrum that experiences both at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
So
some
really,
people
gay
can
marriage. So it seems to me that gay marriage should be a very small percentage.
Yeah, it is. And personally,
it shouldn't be normalized.
I wouldn't say
if you normalize it, it's going to be artificially normalized.
Hold on. Let me address that part. Okay. If you have two options, you can either accept adults doing what they want to do, or
that's fine.
You can kind of control them and not normalize it like you're saying, and then prohibit, and then you create a bigger problem by
you don't prohibit. Prohibit,
but that's what I've been saying, Mike. That's what I've been trying to say, Mike. Like then you create a problem, because they got to find an outlet, and when they find an outlet, they're going to find whatever they can find, even if it's a kid.
Right, but when you promote it, though, but should you promote it? Like, should it be promoted? Like, should it be advertised like a norm?
Well, that's what I said earlier. I don't like that it's being made out to be as if homosexual is the norm now.
Is the norm, right?
Like, it's okay to be straight. That's all I'm saying. It's okay to be straight. It's okay to respect that consenting adults can do what the hell they want to do.
Yeah,
As
of course
long
they
as
can. Of course they can. And if everybody was gay, then we would die off as a species anyways. But to hell with that. Do what you
No,
want.
because you'd have breeders. You'd have breeders.
Yeah.
Well,
And they can punch out all the children.
They can do it. They
well,
can handle it.
I have read some I guess it was a study, but I have read something on the fact that, you know, homosexuality can be created due to natural causes or environmental causes, like places that were overpopulated and had more men than females, you know, that you would naturally
I don't know about
find
that.
you would naturally find more homosexuality in those places. I have read that.
You want to know where I think it really comes from, and I this was a study that I wish I could remember what the name of it was, but there is a working theory that with the advancement of the use of hormonal birth control, okay,
yeah, but
that
can't be because
Hold on.
homosexuality been around for a long time.
No, I get that, but I'm saying the percentage has increased by a substantial amount. Okay, and the working theory, I don't think it's been proven.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the Western countries, sure. Well, yeah, but I mean, the Western countries are going to be like, you know, your developed nations, Western cultural.
It's in the
type of
food,
stuff.
man.
You know, well,
It's
it
the
could be in the
food they
food.
put in your body. They have
Soy
it could be
Yeah.
all the above.
Soy
right?
boy.
But
Soy
I
boy
think
alert.
it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting. Hold on. I think it's an interesting parallel, right? Doesn't necessarily prove it, but there is an interesting parallel that as the number or prevalence of the use of birth control has expanded by a considerable amount, so has the kind of the LGBTQ group of humans. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that we ostracize them. Doesn't mean that we treat them bad. You know, we let them figure it out, right? You know, once they become adults. I think the issue, kind of the line for me, is when they try to put, you know, children who their minds haven't fully formed yet, and they, you know, somebody sees a kid playing with like a little boy playing with a Barbie doll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the only toy to play with, right?
Right.
And then somebody somewhere, some expert says, "Oh, that's a clue that they're X, whatever that is." No, the kid's just playing with a toy, right? It doesn't prove anything.
Yeah,
let the kids be kids. They'll figure it out by the time they're an adult.
By that logic, I would have been a serial killer because I used to cut up Barbie dolls, rip their arms off.
I know I did. I used to cut them heads off. My sister's dolls, I'd cut their heads off and hang them all.
You know what's weird is I never did that. Like I had, I grew up in there was 5 people in my house. Is that right? Yeah, there was 4 people in my house. I had my dad and my 2 brothers. Okay, so it was a male dominated household. And the neighborhood I grew up in, when I was little, before I turned 10, I had neighbors that were boys and girls. And I played with the girls. When I played with them, I played with the girl toys. And when I was with the boys, I played with the boy toys. I never cut the heads off any dolls. I just thought that was weird.
Well, aren't you special?
I guess. You know, and growing up as an adolescent and as a teenager, I tended to hang out more with girls. Because 1, I thought they were pretty, and 2, you know, they were kind of easier to talk to, and I got a chance to kind of, you know, hear all these things. And now, even as an adult, most of my with the exception of like 1 or 2, most of my closest friends are women. You know,
yeah.
And I've been told by, you know, some very close friends that I'm, as a very masculine guy, I'm very in tune with my feminine side, but that doesn't mean that I'm a feminine or B.
Wait. You have a feminine side?
But all guys get
no. Real men don't have feminine sides.
Whatever, Scott. I'm out of here, y'all.
I'm just kidding.
No, for real.
Right,
I gotta go.
I know. I
gotta
get out too.
It's getting late, girl.
It's getting late, so I'll talk to y'all later.
Okay.
All right. Peace out, girl.
Later. All right.
Always good one. But
all right,
the point that I'm making is that just because you have a girl that can like masculine things, doesn't mean that doesn't automatically mean that they're gay or whatever. It doesn't mean they're straight either, but because they can kind of pick and figure it out, right? Just because you have a boy that plays with pink things doesn't mean they're gay. It just means they figure it out, And so,
I just don't know if gay is even really a thing like that. I think that it seems to me, and I'm definitely not an expert on the subject. I don't know.
No, neither am I.
It just seems to me, and it just seems to me that you can have the most macho, tough guys in the world go into prison and start raping other men. I mean, to me, they're gay, man.
But hold on. Is that an attraction thing or is that a power thing?
That's a power thing. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean that they're.
That's what I'm saying is that this gay thing is just a label we put on people's behavior. Like, people can do anything they want with their body, right? People can do all kinds of things. Like, I wouldn't want to, but there's certain men that, they can do it if they have to, or they can do it for many reasons. Are they, what does this mean that they're gay or they're not gay, that they're doing it for other reasons? They're all doing the same shit.
Well,
they're screwing around with other men.
The question that I have, right, at least from my vantage point, is when it comes to the adult element of this conversation, right? In other words, adults engaging in adult activities with other consenting adults. Why do you care? Right?
I mean, I care when it comes to children.
Right. And I think that's an agreeable line that we can kind of like, fester on.
But I have friends that are gay. Like,
so do I.
I don't hate them, or
I don't hate them. I
don't really
close
care.
Friends that are, one of my very closest friends, that her and I actually dated for a while, and she married another gal. I drove the limousine at their wedding. It was great, Yeah. And we're still friends to this day. It's quite nice. And she's an amazing woman. She has a son that's, that's on the spectrum.
It's worth, I think it's worth, I play devil's advocate on this show all the time. And I think it's worth doing that, because you got to understand, a lot of people, especially they call themselves conservatives, don't believe, they believe in traditional family values, which means a conservative, old-fashioned traditional value where gay is not part of that. The gay lifestyle is not part of that. Dynamic.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? And so these are the questions people have, and they're like, well, there's not only that, but maybe it's also that there's safety issues. Maybe God told us gay was wrong for other reasons too, not just because, it's gross, but also God says it's bad because, it's AIDS, venereal diseases,
right?
Like HIV. You get pedophiles. There's a reason God said don't do this.
No,
I think
there's a valid argument there. However, part of the reason why God put us on this earth, okay, and my relationship with religion is spotty at best. But the way I see it, assuming that God is real, and I think there is a God, and I believe in Jesus and that kind of stuff. But God put us here for us to choose, right? For us to choose for ourselves, not to choose for others, right? Now, we can try to, bring people in, but because we're human, that value of bringing somebody in crosses the line to where now we're going to force you to join, right? And that's a problem. That's one reason why the United States was created, was because England wanted to force these guys to join a particular church.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're talking about
so
morals.
Let the adults
morality,
I understand that. But more morality, and I hate, morality is somewhat of a social construct, right? It's rooted in logical common sense things like you shouldn't kill people because it's not right. Okay.
Commandments.
But then what do you do with people that go out and kill others? Right? If you look at the translation in the Bible, most of the versions of the Bible don't say thou shalt not kill. It says thou shalt not murder,
which is a legal term. It
became a legal term.
Yeah.
Right.
Murder,
So let me ask you, why is there a difference between the word kill and murder?
Well, killing can be like killing an animal for food. There's all kinds of justified
Well,
reasons.
okay, but wait.
Murder
in
is
the
unjustified
context,
killing.
hold on. In the context of humans, okay, killing and murder are two very different things. Okay. To murder somebody is, like you were saying, it's an intentional act, it's an unjustified act.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't like John over here, so I'm gonna kill John. Right? That's an unjustified thing. Now, John's trying to kill me, it's me or him. Well, I'm going to try as my damnedest to make it me surviving and not him.
Mm-hmm.
That's defense. You see,
Mm-hmm.
there's that how do I even put it? There's that line, right? Protect
Mm-hmm.
your own life. And if someone tries to take that life from you, you have every right to defend yourself. That's why the Second Amendment exists, to guarantee that as humans, we have the right to preserve our ability to pursue happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone tries to unjustly take it away, I'm not harming anybody, and someone tries to harm me because they want to take my
That's
new
self-defense.
iPhone.
Right. That's self-defense.
Right. And
but
if you end up killing if you end up killing that person, that's not murder.
Right. But we're talking about morals. So in the Bible,
right? But
when God talks about what you do with your body, that's a moral thing. That's not a rights thing. You don't have the right to use your body the way you want to. You just don't. You don't.
Okay, let me rebut it.
The Bible is very clear.
Hold on. I get that, but hold on. Let me rebut that. Okay.
There's nothing to rebut. The Bible's clear. You don't steal. That's using your body to do something. You don't.
I get that.
Have homosexual relations with another woman or man. That's behavior.
Okay.
Those are morals. There's nothing really to debate.
But no. But here's the thing. You're coming from the perspective that everybody should just adhere to the Bible. Okay, which one?
No, I'm not. I don't even believe in the Bible. This isn't for me. What I'm making is that you have lots of conservatives out here that these questions are still worth talking about, because this is how they actually feel. They feel like the Bible is to be interpreted, that it's legalistic, morals are regulated. Well, and so God's law is higher than man's law. God's law is higher than the law of the land in any land, right?
Yeah, but the law
in the Bible,
man's law kind of derived from roots.
But man is full of sin, and he's going to obviously adulterate everything, and he's going to water down. That's why we have
that's the price. That's the price that we pay for being on this earth, in that we have the responsibility.
But here's the question:
what we do.
But here's the question: the folks that are. It seems to me that in history, societies shunned homosexuality, and it's only in recent times. So it seems like we're getting farther away from the biblical law. Man's law is getting farther away.
But I think the reason why is because rather than trying to encourage people to follow Christ, or encourage people to follow God, or encourage people to read the Bible, or whatever religious texts, right?
Tell that to them, though. They'll tell you that you're the one that doesn't read the Bible, because if you
I get that. I grew up in a very religious household. Both my parents were Catholic, okay?
Right.
And they, and I got raised in a different faith, but my point is that in order to control the outcome, a lot of religions, most I would say, do it by coercion, fear, emotional manipulation, right? Do this, or a scary guy in the sky is going to throw you into a lake of fire.
That's true, right?
And that works for some, but it doesn't work for all, because as human beings, some of us have or oppositional. It's ODD? It's oppositional defiance disorder.
Right, but all I'm really saying is I understand there's different interpretations of the Bible. There's different churches, different sects of Christianity, like 6,000.
Right, but
what I'm saying
let's
is
rewind a little more. If you're one that follows God, hold on, wait. Let me make a point. If you're one that follows God in Christ, go back to the root of kind of the very beginning. We go Adam and Eve. Okay, the example of Adam and Eve, right? Eat not, or eat of every fruit, but eat not of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You have the right to choose. You can choose, but you can't choose the consequences. And if you do the consequences, then thou shalt surely die. Right.
That's
so here's the thing.
You're talking about a point that I'm not really. You're addressing a point that I'm not making. The only point that I'm making is that you have, especially when we talk about conservatives, we're talking about evangelical, fundamental Christians that believe a certain thing. They deny evolution. They don't believe in evolution. Okay. They believe that homosexuality is a cardinal sin.
Okay.
And all of these other things. So what I'm saying,
and they can believe all that.
And all I'm saying is that a lot of their argumentation will not only entail the Bible, but they'll also point to these other things that I was bringing up today, like the pedophilia, the diseases, the breakdown of society altogether. And that's the only point I was making. Is that's the reason I'm bringing it up. But I agree with it.
I'm digging deeper than that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. To me, what's most important is for society, to some degree, to stop all the fighting. Okay. But the evangelicals, as an example, and this falls into the right, it falls into the left. It's pretty much universal. No matter what mindset you have, you're going to have a group of people that are going to try to force people into coming into their line of thinking through coercion, through fear, through manipulation.
Do you think rather
than hold on? As a matter of fact, yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah. But not to a single ideology, to multiple ideologies. No, but what was the example Christ gave?
Right, but I'm saying,
come unto me, right? Not by force.
Right.
Christ didn't go around and say, "Hey, you come with me, pal."
Here's what the evangelicals will tell you for what you.
He led by example.
They will say that you are a weak-kneed, flag-waving, phony Christian, because they'll say if you are a true Christian, you will fight the good fight. You will preach the good news, and you will say no to sin. Say no to sin.
Okay, but that's for me. I get to choose for me. I don't get to choose for somebody else.
This is for society.
Right, but the thing is, hold on.
Go forth and preach to the world.
That's
the
good.
Message.
That's good. But go forth and preach does not mean go forth and force people to follow your line of thinking.
I agree, but they don't think that way.
I understand that.
That's my problem.
But that's my point. That's my point. Is that I think that using Christ's example to where he was the example of this is how you should live your life.
Dust your sandals off and walk away.
Right.
If they don't
and he guess who he reached out to? He reached out to all the sinners and said, "Hey,
all the sinners and everybody,
hey, there's a better way to do life, right?"
That's
the example. This is what a lot of evangelical Christians miss.
What do you do as a conservative? You're trying to push that message as a conservative. They will automatically kind of group you into the liberal progressive Christian, the universal.
And I don't fit into that thing anyway. My either because the way I see it is that I can only control what I do. I
understand how you feel. That's right. Exactly.
No. But hold on. Let me get to this, and I'll get there quickly. I can control what I do, and all I can be is an example for others to go. I like what Mike does. I like how he sees the world. Well, what makes him tick? Right. So I can be an example, and that's how I can. If I was a devout Christian, which I'm not, even though I believe in Christ, but I don't, I'm not like a Bible thumping whatever, but I get the simple core of the message of Christ in that he led by example. So I can try to be the best example I can be because I'm imperfect. I'll get stuff wrong, but that doesn't mean I'm going to chastise someone or berate someone or belittle someone because they choose to live a lifestyle different than what I think is appropriate.
I agree.
And I would like other Christians to follow that core principle.
You are preaching to the crowd. But here's the thing that in my experience, talking with a lot of evangelical Christians, they say that when you vote your conscience. And if Christianity is your conscience and you feel like homosexuality is a sin, you feel like all these progressive sort of ideas about inclusiveness and seeing the gay marriage happen.
Well,
they are going to vote against those things because
let me throw
devil's advocate in here. There is value in inclusivity, but inclusivity does not default mean praise of, like put this group of people above others because they're different.
Yeah, right? But see, I don't know, man. It's just that to me,
there is a balance.
I understand how the evangelical fundamentalist Christian thinks because I used to be one.
So do I. I used to be in that world.
The way that they think is that, look, God has revealed to me that homosexuality is a sin. I am going to vote against gay marriage or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Right?
And that's your choice.
And that's your choice.
That's your choice.
If you want your vote to count and if you want to get people together, you're going to have to go out in the street and promote your message so that you can get more people to vote your way. Because that's the whole purpose of voting.
What's the most powerful
atheists,
way to do that?
Well, they're going to say, well, why do the leftists and the secularists, the people that the anti-religious people, why do they get to go out in the street and promote their little agendas, but we Christians don't have a right to do that? Why do we have to keep it to ourselves? Why do we have to prove it by example and all that? Why can't we play the game?
Because doing it by force and coercion is not going to work. It's going to push more people away.
It's not force and coercion.
And it is. It completely is.
Not if you're just preaching from the pulpit or
why do you think so many people over the last 50 years, the amount of participation in church in general has dwindled significantly?
Well, I know why. I
because
have
of because of the coercion by guilt, the coercion by all that, it pushes people away.
I agree, but all I'm telling you is that these people don't see it that way, and these people are always going to.
So I'm going to be an example, and I'm going to point out, hey guys, you get more. What's the phrase? You get more honey, flies with sugar than you do with vinegar. Okay, yep. More flies with vinegar or honey than you did vinegar. Well, I guess flies don't even go after honey, but my point, you get the point. All right. Yep. So my thinking is to replace that coercive factor of religion, whether you're Baptist, whether you're Mormon, whether you're Catholic, whether you're Jewish, whatever, right? Replace that kind of like that barrier of like, oh, you're this, we hate you. Mm-hmm. Okay, with oh, you're this, okay. Hey, you're welcome to join us. We think that behavior is not the most healthy, but come check us out and we'll welcome you. We'll respect you. We'll treat you like we treat everybody else. And by leading by that example, and it may be difficult because that's a hard thing to, for people that have been raised and born and bred into that environment.
That's what I'm getting at.
It's
hard to understand that.
Open their hearts, right?
It's hard to understand
and be stiff-necked. Okay, because how many times in the Bible that show that people that are stiff-necked were the ones that kind of had the problem. They were stiff-necked in their ways of being evil.
And it's hard for them to understand that because
right. So that's why I want to.
No. Well, let me finish. They're doing this out of compassion. When they're telling you being gay is going to lead you to hell, they're not being mean to you. No. Coercion. They're not being.
They're trying to scare you.
No. Well, yeah, but they're doing it for a good reason. They're doing it because they're trying.
It doesn't matter.
They're trying to keep you. But I'm just telling you from their point of view.
Right.
They're telling you, I don't want you to suffer eternity in hell, and it would be bad for me to not say anything and let you do it. Because
see, that's the thing, is that
called them to do.
But
Christ called them to do that.
No. Christ
That's what
never
they
called them,
think.
said to shame people into doing the right thing.
Well,
Christ called them to be an example. They
there's
called them to be
scriptures.
example. I know, but keep in mind, the scriptures were written by many people, combined into what we call the Bible.
You can't tell them that. You can't tell them that. They're not
Sorry.
going to buy that. They're not.
Sometimes the truth
I know
sucks. There's many more books written by many more religious scholarly types.
So I agree with you.
Prophets or apostles.
Just a little
disciples.
disclaimer for everybody. Just a little disclaimer. I agree with Mike 100%. I'm just kind of kicking back just to kind of give them the little challenge there. But
hey,
you know,
and I'm
what
all
we need
for
to
it.
do, Mike. What we need to do, Mike, is just like you said. We need to present the facts, present good epistemology, promote good ways
but
of
let
determining
them see the
things.
logic in it. Let them see the logic
You can't
in
force
seeing that
beliefs.
you just can't,
You
because
can't-
the
you
more
can't force
the more
beliefs.
and I use this idiom a lot. Okay, you pick up a handful of sand. Okay, and if your palm is open, you'll hold more sand. But the tighter you try to grasp onto it, it's going to find a way out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good analogy.
I don't even know where that even comes from, to be honest. But I was in the beach one day and I remember just kind of holding the sand in my hand, and I'm like going, the tighter I hold it, the less sand,
Yeah.
So that's the mindset that I think that the evangelicals, because let's agree on something else. Like you said, the evangelicals, their heart's in the right place, but they think they can get there by force. It doesn't happen that way. You push people away.
And they need what you need to help them understand.
And what this world needs is
you need to help them understand that, because what they'll tell you is that we don't force anybody to be Christians. We don't force anybody to accept our thing. But what you need to tell them is that when you threaten people with hell, especially little kids and on up, you're using coercion.
Hell, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
I don't know if that exists. It might.
Yeah, but that's what you need to. That's what you need to tell. That's what you need to tell them. You need to tell them that coercion is a form of force, and that
it is.
Because they're going to always say that just because we coerce our kids into escaping hell, that's not force. We're forcing them to do the right thing, and we're doing it out of compassion.
The compassion part is there, but the shortcut is fear. I can get more results if I just dial up the fear, right? And government does it, politicians do it. That's how it is. So, in closing, because it is we just crossed the 3-hour mark.
Yeah.
Good stream. How all this ties into gun control, I'm not even really sure, because we covered a lot of topics on this. But going back to the gun problem, okay, all these things I think play a part in some degree. But my thinking is this, is that when you have youth that grow up in tumultuous homes, because keep in mind, even intact families can have problems, right? The father can abuse the mother can abuse the father, right? Toxic relationship, but somehow for some reason they stay together, whether it's for tax benefits, I don't know. Those kids can also be susceptible to being involved with, kind of gun violence, right? The issue is not to blame the tool.
Exactly.
Okay? The issue is to address the circumstances that drive the individual to use the tool in a manner not for its intended use.
Well, it's taking the responsibility off of the individual when you do that. It's like there's thousands of people die in car accidents every year. So we should ban cars? No.
Right.
We should.
It's a good analogy. And hey, the right to have a car is not enshrined in our Constitution.
Right.
So it would be easier to ban cars. It'd be easier to ban cars than it would be to ban firearms. Because we don't have a right to have a car. We have a right to have firearms.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. And I understand 100%.
So to draw the focus on the implement, it's an easier route,
right? Just like the evangelicals, where it's easier to control people through fear, it's easier to control the masses to fear an inanimate object that by itself, left to its own devices, laying on the floor, is never going to shoot anybody. I mean, there was one politician that said something to the effect of, "Oh, there's been plenty of instances where unloaded guns have killed people."
Yeah. Well, you know, you know that's the thing that they will always come up with an excuse to say, "Oh, you're just being simple-minded. You're just simplifying it and you're not treating it for the complexity that it deserves." But actually, it really does boil down to that. People have to be responsible for their actions.
There's beauty in simplicity, and you're right. People need to be responsible for their actions. They need to be responsible for the people that they bring into the world. Yep. They need to be responsible in monitoring their upbringing. They need to ask questions and get additional opinions from the experts to be able to gather as much. It's going to require involvement, but to get as much information from not just from one doctor. Because your doctor may be great, your doctor may be a quack, but the more information
do your due diligence. And I need to be responsible to be going to bed on time so I can get up for work tomorrow. So I'm going to cut this screen short, man. But
all right, boss.
Great conversation as usual.
As always.
And you guys have a good night. Yep.
Good night, folks.
Brother.
Bye.
All right.
Good night.